Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have mi brother with me by blood. So I'm gonna be, well, he and me, we're gonna be watching something completely different than I usually do on this channel. The video that we're gonna be watching is called The Itaewon Halloween Tragedy: 159 Dead and How the Police Tried to Cover It Up. So he has never seen any video of Rotten Mango. I am a fan of hers, but I haven't watched videos like in a few months. But this specific video I did watch when it just came out, and I was traumatized. I'm not even gonna lie. I watched it like in the middle of the night for no reason, and I couldn't fall asleep like the whole night. Like, I'm not joking. That's how traumatic it was for me. So it was very tragic and just sad, and it could have not happened. But anyways, that's not the point. He's here. He's gonna be watching it for the first time, and I don't remember much from it as well. So, but it's not gonna be like a first time reaction for me. But that doesn't matter. He's never watched any Rotten Manga video. He's in for a ride. That's all I'm saying. You don't watch stuff like this usually, do you? You don't watch any like true crime and documentaries. Nah. So this
just
is
like movies. But
yeah,
not
that's
like
it.
Really true event stuff.
And now I'm the opposite. I love true crime documentaries and TV series. Don't ever watch movies ever. So, but yeah, let's get to it. Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Okay, don't laugh.
Bada bing, bada boom.
What did you do?
Before we get started,
Oh my god. Please stop.
Bada bing, bada boom.
It's okay. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Just
I
keep
just
going.
want to give a content warning. There's going to be a lot of very graphic videos included in this episode. This event was recorded over and over again. There's just a lot out there, and I feel like a lot of the times you need to kind of hear from the families of the victims, and you need to see some of the events that took place just to really understand how important it is that we help these families get justice. So, huge content warning. And with that being said, let's get into it. On October 30th, a man walked out of his tiny
If you want to say something, just pause and say
little
it.
shop in
Don't wait for
Itaewon,
me.
and he placed this pink piece of cloth into like this alleyway. He brings out this tray of food. He lights 2 candles, and this elderly man, he gets on his knees in front of the food, and he starts sobbing. Police immediately approach him, and this alleyway is supposed to be closed off. They had it taped up. Nobody was allowed through. So what is this man doing? Remnants of the tragedy before were lingering everywhere. I mean, if you look at this video, there's IDs, lost shoes, clothes, like everything is scattered throughout the alleyway. And the officer tells the old man, the police officer, you can't do this. Like, you gotta go. Grab your stuff. Come on, let's go. The old man starts arguing back. He's like, don't do this right now. You have to let me do this. You have to let this go. The officer tells him, just take your food. We gotta go. And he screams, no, you leave that right there. More officers start to show up at the scene, and they start touching the food that he's laid out on the ground. They're trying to take it away.
Look how small
the man breaks
the
down
alleyways.
and yells at them.
Keep that in mind.
Don't you even dare touch the food. Finally, the man breaks down completely, and he's sitting on the ground, cold cement, and he's just sobbing. The officer sits down with him, and both of them start crying, and he's like stroking the old man's back, trying to console him. The old man had screamed at them, the children need to have one last meal. One last meal, so don't touch it. Don't you dare touch it.
신랑의 끝에 상인도 경찰도 울음을 터뜨립니다. 이 어이없는 비극을 우리 사회는 언제까지 되풀이해야 할까요?
He owns a shop in this alleyway. He's a business owner, and he said that he tried his best to save as many people as he could, but so many more people died literally right in front of his eyes. 159 people died in the alleyway the night before, and he wanted them to have one last meal.
Damn.
What do you think happened?
Well, that's what
What if you just say?
Well, it's a small alleyway, you still keep that in mind. So I'm thinking it was like someone driving through them or something, like, you know, because it's small, so a lot of people died because someone did something like
Oh, okay, so
run
somebody
through
on
them or
purpose.
something, you know what I mean?
Somebody on purpose did that? Oh, okay.
I don't know, I mean, it's a small
As
alleyway.
always, full show notes
Yeah,
are
I feel
listed
like-
at rottenmangopodcast.com. There's a lot of videos that I've linked there. Please go watch them. And if you guys are watching the video podcast on YouTube at Rotten Mango or on Spotify, all the videos are going to be in this video. And I'm just going to warn you, so many of these videos are so incredibly graphic, and all of them just,
Oh, shit.
yeah, let's get into it. His parents were really worried about him. He was meeting with a therapist twice a week. He had on-campus counseling in high school. It seemed like the parents were doing all of the right things. They were not ignoring his cries for help. They weren't saying, oh, he's just a 16-year-old teenager. Maybe he's just emotional. They were taking everything he was saying so very seriously. Their son had always been a bit of a quieter kid, but like a good kid. He listened to his parents, he studied, came home on time, and if he was out having fun, he was always with like the same two friends. They were like the three peas in a pod. They were the three musketeers. And now he just feels so alone. He feels like he's 16, completely isolated from the world. I mean, the parents did everything that they could to help. December 12th of 2022, so not too long ago, just a few months ago, just a few weeks before Christmas, the parents get a text message from their son, and he says, I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. Please don't forget me. Please, you must remember me. I'm gonna go meet up with my friends. His friends had died in the Itaewon Halloween crowd search just 43 days
He's
ago.
gonna meet up
The
with his
crowd
friends.
search that killed
And they died
159 people
before.
and injured nearly 200
So you
others.
know what he's doing?
And now their son would take his life in a motel bathroom because he couldn't bear to
16 years old.
carry this like incredibly heavy burden of being the only
What?
survivor in his friend group.
Survived.
Literally, nobody could have ever imagined what was going to happen that night in Itaewon. I'm sure you guys have heard of what happened there Halloween weekend of 2022, and if there were a few people that knew it was dangerous.
No, I when that happened, the thing, I saw some articles, oh, something happened Halloween in Korea, but like I didn't know in the depth like what was happening, and obviously you didn't either because you never heard before like when it happened. Like a lot of people
That's
actually
crazy.
didn't know. Yeah, like if you're not online and not watching news or articles and online, you wouldn't even know this happened.
The parents of the people that knew it was dangerous, it definitely wasn't the parents of the people in attendance. They would never have let their kids go if they knew anything bad was going to happen. By all accounts, all these people in attendance, they were responsible adults. There were some that were in high school, some even as young as middle school, but their parents knew exactly where they were going. They just wanted to celebrate. So I kind of need to talk to you about how the night starts so you just see how normal it is. It wasn't like, oh, these people, they went to this dangerous area and risked their lives to celebrate. Like they went to this area that everyone was like, oh, we're warning you, don't go here. It's so, so bad. Absolutely not. Like that's not what happened at all. I did see some online discourse of people being like, well, these people were being young and drunk and reckless, and this is what happens when they all gather in one spot. I completely disagree. For example,
You say that
Mr.
because
and
you're
Mrs.
not in
A,
the situation.
That's what we're going to call them.
It's
They're
like, it's
sitting
not
in
like they
car,
went into a situation,
October
no one's gonna
29th of
happen.
2022, and they're on their way to this super fancy restaurant. They're smiling at each other in the car. I'm sure they felt really excited and kind of giddy. Like they had worked so hard in the past, 3 decades to raise their family, and now their kids finally all grown up. So the parents, they're living the life, and it was also the dad's birthday. And their 25-year-old daughter had just made them reservations at one of the fanciest restaurants in town.
That's nice.
She texted her dad, go have fun with mom. Also, thank you for raising me. I'll repay you in the future. Haha. She wouldn't be joining them as she was gonna go with some friends to celebrate Halloween in Itaewon. So the whole car ride, they're just smiling at each other. I mean, they had raised their kids to be such incredible adults. In another part of Seoul, a dad watched his daughter get ready for Halloween festivities. She was dressed up as Princess Jasmine from Aladdin. This is her. And he remembered, he actually made fun of her. He was like, this full-grown kid, she was putting on a fashion show for me. And she twirled around and she was like, Appa, this is what I'm wearing. Don't I look pretty? I'm sure he was a bit worried that his daughter was going out, but that's very normal. I mean, no parent ever really stops worrying. Same as another father in Seoul. So his daughter told him that she was going to Itaewon for Halloween. He completely trusted her to be safe. She's just always, like all these other kids, I mean, she's just always been this really well-behaved kid. She knew the rules.
So like
followed.
Itaewon, I know that like the Itaewon district, like where they're gonna go, it's like a very hustle and bustle. It's like clubs and well, that's why they're all going to like getting dressed up to go like clubs. I think this was, if I'm not mistaken, it was like the first Halloween after COVID back. It's like, I think so. I'm not sure. I think that's what there was
Well,
like, you know, people are so
yeah,
excited to go and stuff. Yeah, and Itaewon is like if I would ever go to Korea, I would go to Itaewon, like 100%. Everybody goes there.
Okay.
Type that would write him goals. She followed them. She's the type that would write him these lengthy letters for his birthday. The two had this really intense bond. So 3 years before Itaewon, he was diagnosed with leukemia. And his daughter was a match, so they transplanted bone marrow from her to save his life. And she
That's so
wrote to him
like that's
while
so
he's recovering in the hospital. And she wrote,
crazy that she was
I'm
a
so
match.
happy to have been born your daughter. You're the only one that I can rely on, so please don't get sick again, okay? Take good care of yourself, Dad. I need you to stay with me for like another 70 years. You have to cook me seaweed soup, even when I'm like 96 years old.
Seaweed soup, like they cook seaweed soup when they're on birthdays, like for
I love you, Dad.
kids or
You're the
whatever
best.
person's birthday.
By the end of the night, she would be dead. And he would cry out, you told me you wanted me to stay with you for 70 years. You wanted me to cook you seaweed soup until you were 96. You promised. Before we get there, let me tell you about Halloween in South Korea. If you're going to be anywhere in Korea for Halloween, like the first Halloween after COVID restrictions have been lifted was October of 2022. 3 years. It was going to be Itaewon if you were going to go anywhere to celebrate. Itaewon is a city that's located inside of Seoul, and it's above the Han River. It's typically known as just a place with incredibly fun, lively nightlife. Like, that's what people go to Itaewon for. They've got bars, restaurants, nightclubs, shops that open late. It's just like this gathering center. It's also a super popular destination for foreigners. Like, the energy just feels really unique there. There's even this famous K-drama.
I love this
Itaewon
K-drama.
Class,
It's so good.
and there's actually a famous quote in that series that says, most people just come to Itaewon for Halloween. So October 29th of 2022, partygoers are spending hours in front of their bathroom mirrors, like putting on their face makeup, their costume, they're fixing their hair, their wigs, their everything, adjusting their dresses and their pants, and businesses were equally as busy. Like, Halloween in Itaewon that weekend, insane.
Yeah, probably
They're making
packed
sure they got all
everywhere.
the inventory that came in. Like, they got to get all the soju glasses. They're turning up the music. I mean, they're doing everything to make sure that everyone's going to have a good time. They're prepping their ingredients for all the food. I mean, there's going to be about 130,000 people coming through Itaewon, which is a pretty small area.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, like, think about it. The city is Seoul. This is like a part of the major city. Even taxi drivers were on standby near Itaewon just waiting to take all the drunk people home. And I think it's important to note, for weekends like this, it's a boost in the city's economy. And this is important later. So the whole city of Itaewon, they're prepping for this big Halloween weekend. It's literally been 3 years since Itaewon had a Halloween because of, the pandemic. This is the first time that mask mandates have been lifted for Halloween.
It's a big deal. That's like such a
Let's
boost
talk
for economy.
transportation. Let's talk about the logistics of this night. Most citizens that were heading into Itaewon, they were not going to drive. They're going to take the Korean subway. First of all, most people take the subway to begin with. It's the easiest way to move around, and parking would have been absolutely horrific in Itaewon that night. Most people were planning on drinking, so they're not driving. And this is so important to note. Itaewon subway station drops you off right smack dab, like in the middle of Itaewon, right next to this little alleyway. I'm going to put up a bunch of maps, but they'll also be in the show notes.
So small.
Now,
Look, there's
this
2
little
people and it's like
alleyway
nearly
is
filled the whole
important
alley.
because it connects the main road that has the subway station and
So it's like, yeah.
the World Street Food Road, which is like where all the bars and restaurants are. So a lot of people will travel through this alleyway to get from the train station to the busiest part of Itaewon. Some people will leave Itaewon.
Yeah, so it's like for people that would come, they would all come from here and they want to get this part. And the quickest, shortest way you would obviously take it, you wouldn't go all around there or whatever. You would take this small alleyway. So.
Now, some people will leave Itaewon by taking this little alleyway. Now, during the day, this alleyway looks just unassuming. It's just this narrow little space. There's restaurant entrances up and down both sides. There's even a hotel called the Hamilton Hotel located on the alleyway. Okay, so the main entrance for the hotel isn't in the alleyway, but it's like the building is right there. To me, it just looks like your stereotypical alleyway in one of the big cities. Like, space is tight, the places are gonna be tight. I'm gonna give you a bunch of pictures on just how narrow it is. It's about 10 feet wide.
It's like an alleyway
and
that you would
about
take a shortcut
130
to
feet
something.
long.
Like you wouldn't
And
go
it's
to
on
the
a
alleyway
hill,
for
so
something.
it slopes downward. Another thing to note is that the road is not paved over in like a smooth cement. Okay, I wouldn't say it's as intense as cobblestone, but it's like a brick floor.
There's, like, gaps.
Where some bricks protrude out more than others, and you can definitely tell that some parts of this hill, this downward slope, they're uneven. So even without a crowd, it's the kind of alleyway where if you were walking down with your
Like,
friends,
that's not how
you
it
would
was
try to keep
dirty.
an eye
That's
out,
after
because you
the...
could easily trip. It's that kind of rocky. Now, take this alleyway and imagine two horizontal roads, big roads. One road is the main party street for Itaewon, called Itaewon World Food Street. And the other road has the Itaewon subway station on there. And the easiest way to get from these two parallel roads is this tiny little alleyway. So throughout the entire Halloween night, people are up and down this alleyway, getting to and from the subway station. And as the night is progressing, there were what now seems like the first warning signs. There were a few people that were pushed down or accidentally shoved in this alleyway. Now, I mean, I'm sure the party energy, the alcohol, I'm sure it had some. Most of it was due to the alleyway, like the crowds, the foot traffic, the uneven floorings, the slope. But everyone responded to these mini accidents in a very normal way. Everyone would freeze, make sure the person got back up, was good, and then everyone would keep walking again. That's kind of to be expected. What's not to be expected is nearly 200 people dying in this alleyway. The first 911 call of the night was made at 6:30 p.m. The incident doesn't happen until about 10.
Wow, so that's 3.5 hours earlier.
And they're
3.5
talking about
hours
people
earlier,
going there
people
unresponsible.
started
People are
realizing
calling like
something wasn't
before
right.
everything
Like,
even...
things are gonna get weird. So in Korea, it's 112, the emergency line. But someone called to report to the police, hey, the alleyway near the Hamilton Hotel is getting dangerous. People are going up and down this tiny little alleyway. Some people are struggling to get down the alleyway because people keep pushing them up. Like, I barely made it out of the alleyway. It's getting that crowded. It's getting bad. I think you guys need to send some people down here and try to control the situation. The police on the other end asked, are people gonna fall down and cause a huge accident? Yeah, it's
So
really dangerous.
sarcastic.
You need to do something.
I feel like that was
Thanks
sarcastic.
for calling. We're gonna send someone out to check it out. For hours, nobody checked it out.
But that's weird, because don't you need to have police present when there's big crowd anyways?
Yeah, so that's the argument that people have, and why I said it's so important. The fact that
It's like
Halloween
we have the Carrick Festival, like during summer. It's like our main street of the town. Like our town is not that big, but it's like it's the main street, and we have like rides and like a stage on both sides of the town, and there's like a bunch of people. Like it's packed during like the 5 or 4 days it is, whatever. But it's not like packed to the point where you can't go through or whatever. And still there would like Garda in Ireland, police is called Garda. They would be like a bunch of them walking on each side of the street and stuff, and it's like not that packed. Like it's not 100,000 people going to the same location to party, you know, and they still would be present.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's like
kinda
very
silly.
irresponsible, you know. And then like, you know, anyway,
weekend
it gets fucking crazier.
it boosts the economy of the city. So anytime there's these events that are held, police are part of the planning. It's all part of city planning.
Yeah.
That's like what your taxes are paying for.
Yeah.
There was like no police there. I mean, we're going to get into all the reasonings. A lot of police officers get arrested. 7 p.m., a large crowd gets stuck.
7 p.m.
Jesus Christ.
I do think several things play a factor. in
Person
how
called at
things turn
6:30.
out This
And this
first
7
time.
p.m. and there
And
was still
7
police
p.m.,
didn't think.
the party's just getting started, it seemed. People were
That is just
drunk, but
unbelievable.
more than that, people were just excited to be there. Keep this in mind, and it's not that big of a crowd. So there's a crowd stuck in the alleyway, and it seems like an accident is just waiting to happen. So a woman in the crowd, she senses this danger. She climbs up onto a ledge in the alleyway where she can see both ways, and she starts directing the crowd, like, you know, a traffic police officer. She's urging everyone, hey, go down the slope first, everyone. Move to the side, and then people going up the slope can come up afterwards.
Doing the police's
easy.
job.
I mean, it sounds like, why didn't they do this the next time it happened? But it wasn't easy by any means. Like, the crowd was moving basically inch by inch. That's how jam-packed it was. It was not like a, hey, everyone to the right, to the left. They're inching forward and backward, but I still think it was at a point where it was manageable. Everyone was yelling to everyone, listen to the woman, get down the alleyway first.
And like at 7 p.m., like people would be only just going, I think. They're not drunk or anything. Like people are saying, oh, just drunk people, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, I don't think they'll be drunk at all yet. Maybe some already start partying, but if they're going back and forth, that means they're just on their way to whatever, you know?
Most likely, yeah.
Loud yet. Alleyway first. The music wasn't that loud yet. People weren't, out and about for that long. And just in general, there weren't that many people in the alleyway. But after this crowd is able to get through the alleyway, there's like this lingering feeling. This is not a good situation. At first, in the beginning of the night, all the posts about Itaewon that night were, oh my god, Itaewon's going to be crazy. It's going to be fun. It's so exciting. Look at all the places
Everybody
that
were
are
dressed
open.
as
Look
that.
at these costumes
Yay.
people are wearing. It was a good thing. It was a positive feeling. But throughout the night, more posts were popping up about how dangerous things were starting to feel. Someone straight up tweeted, wildly unsafe in Itaewon right now. They showed some pictures of the intense crowds. It wasn't just social media being made aware of this situation. A lot of people in Itaewon called the police, which I think is interesting because technically no crime had taken place yet. But the fact that a lot of these civilians
So the police only come when there's 200 people dead. Like
before
what?
the accident happened.
Aren't they supposed to prevent? There's supposed to be
Yeah.
a thing that prevents things from happening, like bad things.
That's crazy.
There's going to be one thing where I was like, whoa, the fact that it's Halloween, it doesn't, what?
It's like there's someone with a gun, You call them, here's the guy with a gun here.
Yeah.
Did he shoot you yet?
Yeah. It's literally.
No, okay.
Yeah, exactly the same things, you know what I mean?
Like, the hell?
Yeah, just let us know if he shoots you.
Yeah, then we'll come down because until then it's okay. It's not like
Yeah,
That's
Korea has
crazy.
a big issue with
police.
and stuff like
Really?
that. Authority, like, yeah.
I think that goes to show you how unprepared the city was. A lot of these civilians could see that things were escalating. A lot of these crime had taken place yet. But the fact that a lot of these civilians could see that things were escalating, I think that goes to show you how unprepared the city was for this event. Like, it's just insane. One survivor said, it was around 8 p.m. when I went into the alleyway, and it was like hell. So this is even before the incident. They said there were already a ton of people in the alleyway and I couldn't get into the alleyway. I couldn't even get in. So there's multiple directions that people are coming in from. On both sides of the alleyway, there's two directions.
There's all traffic into that small place.
Okay.
Like this, right?
Yeah.
And she said, I couldn't get in. After waiting for an hour to start walking down the alleyway, my friend and I were like, okay, we can't do this. Like, let's turn around.
It's
We tried to turn around.
Did not go anywhere else. It was too packed.
Yeah, probably. I don't know, but it's like, it's just more convenient. And it's like, obviously when you're going there, you're not expecting that you're gonna go into this type of traffic. But then when you're already there, there's more people going, so you're like stuck. So if like nowhere, do you know what I mean? So you're like nowhere else to go. So you're like, oh, I just have to wait out and go through here. Do you know what I mean? So, but it's just like so unfortunate to like 4 different locations. People are going to that little fucking thing. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, obviously if they knew that there was like, if that would happen, they wouldn't do that. They probably like go around or something, But that's our human nature. We want to do things quicker, go through a quicker place,
Shortcuts.
Here for an hour around. They try to turn around. They're like, okay, we've been waiting here for an hour. We haven't even started walking down the alleyway. But it was impossible to turn around because they were jam-packed. People were pushing up behind him. I mean, they were literally trapped. Someone was pushing them down the alleyway. People in front of them were pushing back on them. She said that she heard people behind her screaming, squeeze in, squeeze in. Like, come on, let's get down the alleyway. But in front of her, people were screaming, help me, stop. Like, I can't breathe. Stop pushing.
This was 8 o'clock.
Yeah. The scariest part
It's a few
that she
hours
said
still
was
until the
she
thing
fell.
happens.
She said, a person in front of me fell and I fell with them. And everyone behind me started falling.
Domino
like
effect.
dominoes, right? So there was like a little incident where everyone started tripping. And she said, someone was under me, I was under someone, and people were on top of me. I could barely breathe. I was calling for help and I felt like the music was drowning me out. Nobody could even hear me. And then finally, someone like dragged her to the side into one of the bars. They later left the alley slowly along the wall. But it was just as crowded as they left.
Just look.
So things, they're clearly getting worse and worse. One caller told the police before the tragedy, and I repeat, before the tragedy, They called the police and said, I feel like I'm going to get crushed. When I was in that alleyway, a lot of people were just getting squashed. It's pure chaos out here. Please help. Send help. The officer on the other line reassured her that help was on the way. Records show that they were not on the way.
That's what
Out
they
of
said
numerous
2 hours
phone calls that were
literally
made to
before.
police that
Before,
night, the
yeah.
police
It's,
only
uh,
sent
six.
out
And I feel like they
officers
didn't
4
just get 2
times,
calls.
and apparently they didn't do anything. I
Oh,
don't know
4
if maybe
times
they
there.
didn't feel like anything was wrong. Maybe they didn't care to find out. Honestly, I don't know. But it is noted the police did not dispatch anyone after calls were made from 9 p.m. and onward.
That's
so an
crazy.
hour leading up to the tragedy, the police sent no officers to the site.
That's
They were getting
that's
tens of
like
calls.
Not doing the
purposefully,
Truly
it
is
sounds
not that
like.
nobody was alerting them
They were
that
like
something
told
was
don't
wrong.
go or
In
something.
fact, someone even walked into the police station to tell them. A live streamer, let's call her G. G was live streaming in Itaewon that night, and the night started off great. But soon the roads, the alleyways, they got so crowded. She's being pushed and shoved to the point where she had a crossbody bag on, and the strap broke. And her purse was just gone because it fell.
It's crazy.
And she can't even look around at the ground because it's just so filled with people. She tries to look for it briefly, but the crowd is so intense. She goes to the Itaewon police station to report her purse missing. But also, she's warning them. Like, this is how crazy the crowds are. Like, you don't think that's crazy that this happened with my purse? Like, nobody stole it. It broke because I was being pushed and shoved. She said, when I was there in the alleyway, I even saw people shouting that they had fallen and that they had gotten hurt. Like, you guys need to do something about it. The crowd is getting out of control. Somebody's going to get hurt. The police ignored her. They instead focused on the fact that they're like, oh, well, we're going to keep an eye out on your purse. Hopefully someone turns it in tomorrow to wash
That was
it
not
out."
the issue. What the fuck?
Oh, it gets really... The
Yeah.
conspiracies come too.
I don't think it's
really
conspiracies when it's like
So,
it just
question,
the
I
signs are
guess, is,
there.
did the police just really think that nothing bad was going to happen?
Like there was, you want to say there was not a single person in the police station that had good morals and
And just
ethics
went.
and would want to say like, oh, just let's go.
Yeah,
And I'm
what
sure,
the
no,
fuck?
I think there was somebody like this, but it's like at this point, it's like so reckless and they just ignoring completely, like blatantly, that I think like they were ordered. Because in Korea, they're like very about authority. They have to listen, even if you're like older, especially if you're high in your rank. That's like Jesus Christ. Like I feel like they were ordered. Do you know what I mean? So it's like that's what I think, but I don't actually remember the
I feel like
conspiracies
now,
about this. But
as the story goes on, I think it's maybe people crushing them because it's too much. Because it feels like it's
crushing
too,
each other.
because like falling on top, like she said, and couldn't breathe and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's like a big ass fear for me though. Like in crowds getting squashed, and you
Concerts.
can't breathe.
Do you remember the Travis Scott
Yeah.
Travis Scott controversy about the concert? Like people weren't taking it seriously, but it's like you'll see now after that, after watching this, I don't remember if it happened before or after this, but I was comparing. I was like, that is not actually funny. People are laughing about it. Oh, what the fuck? No, people can literally die.
No, it's like suffocating,
Yeah,
slowly.
yeah. That is.
And
yeah.
it's the worst feeling ever because like you can't move, you're stuck, and everyone's like falling on top of you, and you're just slowly going out. It's not quick. It's like very
no.
painful and
Oh no,
horrible. That like
it's fucking crazy.
I don't know.
But they were wrong. Think that nothing bad was going to happen, but they were wrong. The tragedy happened 1 hour after she reported it to the police. It's
like every hour they were being reported.
Let's call him Mr. A. He's live streaming. And his time in Itaewon, like I said, with the other live streamer, at first you see him laughing, he's smiling on the stream, he is walking through the crowds, there's people in costumes, dancing, having fun. And then slowly the initial joy just starts dissipating. Those laughters suddenly morph into people's screams and cries. And at one point,
Like, you
even
can
the
see his face as
streamer
well,
is crying
like,
for help
what the
because
hell?
he had walked into the alleyway and
Nervous
got caught in
and,
the crowd surge.
Like you went from like
So
smiling
He
from
said
like
the
what
space
the hell, I
got
can't get
tighter
out.
and tighter and tighter, and the pressure became unbearable. He said there was this girl next to him, and she was much, much shorter than him. She was
I would be
screaming
dead
for help.
in seconds. I'm
He tried
so
to give her
short.
as much space as possible, but it was difficult. And in the end, he said that he saw her face turn purple, and then she stopped screaming.
So it's not that slow, is it? It's
Streamer
very
said
quick.
the only reason he was alive was a guy in a blue denim jacket helped him climb up into this small ledge on the wall of the
Jesus.
alleyway. It was like a small staircase ledge, like a mini balcony. And the streamer said that once he got up there, he started helping other people onto the ledge, saving them from the crowd. And there was this moment where people on the ledge looked at each other. And
Yeah.
one of the guys
At what
told
point
him,
you're like,
please don't pull more people up. It's
Yeah,
already
because
too
they would
crowded."
get squashed in the ledge. Like, it'd be too much.
And the streamer said, "Okay, just one more."
It's like, I don't know, it's like such, imagine like how guilty you would feel, but then at the same time, you're like, it's like, I die if there's more people gonna come, and if they're gonna see that we're like keep pulling people, more people gonna want to come, and then it's like they could start falling out of the ledge and stuff. But it's like I would feel so like I would feel it's my fault that like somebody died extra, you know.
Like, how could you even like?
But I
It'd
understand
be
them.
so hard to even watch or like listen. You know, everyone
You would-
screaming
yeah.
and like. If I think if that was me, I would just sit down and close my eyes and ears and just try block
Like
out.
there's a meme, you know, emotional damage, but that's like literal emotional damage forever, scarred, and you'd probably blame yourself even though it's not your fault because you're trying to save yourself. Like, do you know what I mean?
That's just like I can't even imagine that situation. Like,
Yeah.
it's literally hearing other people dying in front of you. Like, it's not like just like help, whatever. It's like in pain, people like fucking
Yeah.
screaming for their life, and nothing can be done about it because it's just too late. Like, it's too much people.
Yeah.
Like, what can you do in that situation? Like, there's no no police, nothing to help them to prevent it. Like,
Which is
it's just at that
crazy.
stage you literally are fighting for survival.
Like 4 hours, bro. First call was what at 6:30, and like the tragedy itself, like not. I think the tragedy already happened when people start reporting it.
fucking
It was
crazy.
already happening. Like obviously at
course.
10 o'clock, the whole thing just went into whatever it did go. But it's like crazy. That's like such. I forgot what was the word they use when police don't do anything on purpose. I forgot what was the word, but maybe she'll say it here.
Dave Boutmer said, "Okay, just one more." He
Yeah.
helped, and the streamer said, "Already too crowded."
Oh,
And the streamer said, "Okay, just one more." He helped save about 5 to 10 people from the crowd. And remember the denim jacket guy that helped him get onto the ledge in the first place?
Yeah.
He stayed in the crowd and let the weaker people climb up on him to get to the ledge. He survived.
Oh,
He
I actually forgot. I forgot that he survived.
stayed behind to help administer CPR later.
Thank God.
It's speculated that the man in the denim jacket saved 10 people that night. But the crowd started getting tighter and
Did a better
tighter
job than
till
police.
Literally hundreds of people were trapped in the alleyway. The space of the alleyway is said to have been the size of maybe like half a classroom. Think of that many people in this small amount of space. They're not able to communicate because the music is so loud. The floors are uneven. It's so easy to trip. It's just insane.
No, bro, we literally saw the picture. We saw the start of there was like 3 people walking in a row. And there was there's like 3 people and there was like that much space left. It's like 5 people max. Like this could fit. And there was like hundreds of people in that one alley. It's like crazy.
Honestly, I don't know what that would have felt like. I've never been in that situation, but there were a lot of people who survived the surge, and they described it as, "I saw a man with this flashing baton trying to signal people to move back. But you can't move back. It doesn't even matter if someone's giving you directions. It's so crowded. You can't move even if everyone wants to move. You can't
Somebody
move."
was live streaming.
So like I said, this crowd surge was different from the first one. You know, the first one that I told you about that didn't turn into an accident because of the woman on the ledge. There were way too many people this time. So even if there were people taking initiative trying to navigate the crowds, there was no space. The amount of coordination something like that
Too
would have
late.
taken, nearly impossible in
Yeah.
these conditions.
You literally have
And
to take
even then,
people
who
out
knows
of
if
like
it
in the
would have worked?
middle or
Yeah.
the sides,
People
like
in the
somehow.
crowd said that they saw several people trying to look up at the sky, looking for some sort of like direction, some air. They looked like they were getting lightheaded, like they were gonna
Can
faint.
imagine.
They couldn't even reach their arms up to protect their lungs. So that's like the first thing they tell you to do in a crowd surge is to try to give your lungs space. So you put up your arms in almost a defensive boxing position. They couldn't even lift their arms. Most of the ones in the center of the crowd, they couldn't even reach their hands to look at their phones that they were holding in their hands. Many of them had missed calls from their parents. One mother texted her daughter, "Where are you? Where are you? I'm losing my mind. I'm going crazy because I'm so worried. Please respond just so I know where you are. Please just tell me you're safe." The mother had her daughter's name saved on her phone as "my oldest princess." She would never respond. There is a video of the situation. Well, there's multiple videos of the situation where you can see just how dire the situation is. There's some videos where you can see a man trying to cling onto a brick that's protruding from the wall, and it's It's just really graphic. I know it might be puzzling. Some of the videos, they show a different perspective where there looks to be some sort of space between the crowd.
Like this is the crowd and people are looking at the crowd.
And I saw a lot of comments that were like, why don't they just all move forward? There's space. I don't get it. At this point, what the video isn't showing is that there's people stacked on top of each other on the ground in front of that space.
Yeah, that's not people
There's no
standing
way
there on
for
top of each
anyone
other.
standing to move
Oh
forward.
my god.
People had fallen. They were stacked
that's
so
crazy.
high
Like, they have to
that the
literally
people behind them
drag
were
people out.
blocked. It's said that the worst part of the crowd surge, people were stacked on top of each other 13 feet tall. Situations like this, it's
13
like a
feet.
domino effect.
I'm 5'4".
One person falls down, and because of the force of others pressing into you, it's very likely that
That is
another person's gonna fall.
crazy.
You say 13 feet?
What?
That's way taller than the ceiling.
Yeah, that's like way taller
it's
than
going
this.
down.
People stacking each other.
Again, this has nothing to do with anyone being drunk. I don't really like it when people
No.
make it out to be, oh, a bunch of drunk people.
Hell
Of course
no.
they're going to trip and fall. They're going to wreak havoc. This is more about just plain physics. It wouldn't matter if we're talking about church ajumas on a Sunday after drinking tea. Like, this is about physics. It has nothing to do with alcohol. Because of the slope and inertia, like I said, one person falls, it's going to be a domino effect. People are just going to start collapsing. And even if you don't fall, that doesn't mean that you're going to be fine. The pressure of all these people pushing into you, it would cause your lungs to not be able to inflate with oxygen. If 10 people are pushing onto you with their body weight and more, or let's say they're on top of you, which by the way, there looks to be way more than 10 people pushing onto everyone. Let's say they're on top of you, that could be similar to 1,000 pounds of weight pressing straight onto your chest. It's going to be very, very difficult for you to breathe. It's incredibly dangerous, incredibly real, incredibly terrifying. A person may lose consciousness 30 seconds after being severely crushed, and they would suffocate after about 6 minutes. Side note, I know a lot of people in the beginning when news first broke of what happened, I saw a lot of people wondering if it was a stampede, which is you're getting run over by a group of people. Like they're running on top of you. But it wasn't. It wasn't someone being trampled to death. This was more like quicksand. Like being
It
trapped
was
in quicksand.
gradual.
People
Like,
were pushing up against one
escalation.
another, falling, stacking on top of each
Literally
other. It's
4
like
hours.
You're suffocating because you're unable to expand your
Build
chest
up.
to bring
Yeah.
in air. Many of the victims would pass out while they were still standing up. So it wasn't
That's-
a stampede.
that's
It's
literally-
categorized as a crowd surge.
You
Most
pass
people
out
who were
there,
in the
that's
crowd,
it,
they
like-
remembered
Yeah.
vividly about how it felt. They were being lifted off the ground. Their feet weren't even touching the ground anymore. And that's why there's so many shoes that were left behind, because that's how strong. I mean, the pressure from all sides, they were just being pushed and shoved. And that pressure, it's like they're being held in the air by it. I imagine it's like the feeling of being caught in this powerful wave in the ocean. Like you don't stand a chance when you're there. Your body is pushed, shoved, thrown off balance. The force is so strong, like what can you do? And in this situation, survival might solely depend on where you're positioned when it happens. There's a 21-year-old Malaysian named Ragu, and he was lost in the crowd surge. He called his best friend Kim while he was stuck in the crowd surge, and Kim said Ragu was this hard worker. He worked in construction so that he could earn money to send back to his parents back home in Malaysia. He was just this patient and kind soul that just wanted to support his family. He called him in the crowd, and he told his friend Kim, "I'm having a hard time breathing." He also told him, "There's a woman next to me who's fainting, and I'm trying to get her medical attention. She needs help very quickly." He told Kim that he's trying to find ways to escape the crowd search because this woman, this stranger, really needed help. Kim is anxiously staying on the phone with him, and I'm sure that he felt just helpless because he can't do anything for his friend. And then suddenly Ragu told him that the woman he was trying to save, the stranger next to him, her hand had gotten cold. And not too long after, the phone was disconnected. That was the last time Kim would hear from his friend.
That's
He
crazy.
died that night. At around 10:30 p.m., the fire department starts receiving calls that 10 people have been pushed down to the ground and crushed. So again, I don't think it was just 10 people, but I think in the vicinity, people who were able to access their phones saw about 10 people. They reported that people were having difficulties breathing. A few minutes later, the first 4 ambulances were dispatched. Then 6 more came just a few moments later. Police officers started arriving at the scene, and they're unable to
A little
control
too
the
late,
crowds.
buddy.
Now, it's important to note that there are a few select police officers to judge for not taking action quicker, but a lot of the ones that were dispatched in this moment, they were just genuinely trying their best to help. They were not the ones making executive decisions of who goes where. They were going where their superiors told them to go.
Yeah.
They were not the ones picking up the phone about this Itaewon crowd surge.
So they might have
were
not
just
even been
to go
told
there.
about it.
So they show up not knowing what's going on. There's a video. Police officer Kim, he wasn't even dispatched to the scene. He was on duty nearby, and he happened across the situation.
Listen.
So he stops and he tries to take action. He said that when he got to the alleyway, he made his way through the crowd. He saw that civilians, regular civilians, were already taking initiative, pulling people out and doing CPR.
Look, he looks so terrified.
So he's like, okay, this is what we need to do. You know, we need to try to figure out the best course of action in this chaos. He and his colleague decide that the best thing that they can do is redirect the crowds to stay away from the alleyway, away from the Hamilton Hotel, because you add more people in the mix, it's just not good. They also needed space for rescue work. So he starts trying to direct the crowds, and it was hard. So these crowds, most of these people have no idea what's going on in the alleyway.
Yeah.
These are people that are about to funnel into the alleyway.
You can only see from
And
the
they're
top
moving
what's going
past
on.
him,
Not from
and
the...
he's in police uniform, but so are a lot of people.
It's Halloween.
Oh my gosh.
People
And
not
he's
taking
trying to get
seriously.
everyone to walk away from the alleyway because it's utter chaos over there. People are dying. People are suffocating, falling down, collapsing. And if you watch the video of him, there is like this almost primal desperation in his eyes. He's trying to talk to the people that are moving away from him. And these people, they're inches away from his face. And it seems like nobody's listening. Either they can't hear them through the music. It's nightmare fuel. When you're screaming, no one can hear you. You're the only one that knows that doom is happening. There's panic. He's trying to scream over the music. Please go home. Do us a favor. Everyone, please go home. Don't go further. Please go back. Please don't go forward. You can literally feel the fear through the video.
Like, look, people are like looking, and then they're like,
You can hear him. See, like he's literally not scared. Like he's scared. You can hear it like in his
It's
voice.
like, yeah.
And not only the eyes, they tell a lot. Look at him. Heavy
He's
breathing.
like breathing, yeah. He like looks like red,
like,
sweaty
yeah.
almost from...
Like he's scared himself.
Like he's scared that people are gonna literally die if he can't help. Like it's hopelessness.
But like now hearing the actual audio, it's crazy.
Like you can see it's not a costume. He has literally electronics. Like,
Yeah.
but it's, you know, I get it.
He tried his best to warn the crowds. He tried to warn everyone.
Big
that
respect to
people
him
were
though
dying,
for trying,
and they all
like,
needed to leave.
Oh,
It was dangerous.
if I was him, I would have been so fucking upset. I think I would have quit because I'm like, how can I work with these, like, especially the dispatchers that they're taking the calls. I would like destroy everything. Like, you fucking bitches. Like, I was there by myself when there could have been like help.
Really listened.
It
was dangerous.
That just shows that like sometimes you need to like just listen to people and take action before something starts to escalate.
It was bad. Like, people were dying, and they all needed to leave. It was dangerous, and nobody was really listening. He was later interviewed, and he said that he didn't have a megaphone on him because he wasn't dispatched.
They're
to
just
the
probably
scene. He
like
was just
walking
on
around.
duty.
Yeah,
He
that's
stumbled
what she
upon
said
the dire
earlier.
situation. So I imagine he wasn't even driving around in like a cop car. I imagine that he was like on patrol duty.
Yeah.
He said, if we went back to the precinct to get a megaphone, we would have lost too much valuable time. And he cried on the interview, and he said, in the end, a lot of people ended up dying. And I kept thinking to myself, if I had hurried, if I had a megaphone on me, if I handled the situation differently, in a better way, maybe we might have saved one more person.
It's the
And
guilt
that's why I'm
that
at a
eats
loss for
people up.
words, and I'm
They actually tried
so
to do something.
sorry to the families who have lost their loved ones. He said, I tried my best to rescue them, and I'm sorry. I just couldn't. I couldn't.
경찰관들 그리고 있는 시민분들이 정말 발벗고 받아서 구조를 해주셨는데 결과적으로는 많은 분들이 돌아가셨잖아요. 저는 그래서 말씀드린 대로 제가 좀 급하게라도 좀 확성기를 챙겨서 가져갔으면은 또는 다른 더 좋은 방법으로 구조활동을 펼쳤다면은 한 분이라도 더 살렸을 것 같은데 그것 때문에 참 유족분들께 너무 면목이 없고 죄송한 마음밖에 없습니다.
The
It's not
situation
his fault.
literally
No.
couldn't have been worse. I know there's a lot of discourse about what's wrong with these partygoers. People are dying. Why aren't they
Like, what
listening
the
to the
fuck?
police? What's wrong with them? But that's not everyone. I mean, I would like to believe it was a small group of people. It's not like they were just
I can imagine though, like it's not only party goers that were in that alleyway
No.
that day, like
No,
families
She will tell. She will. It was here.
and
There's
just
more
people,
stories.
you know, like friends, everything. Like it's not like it's big party people. Oh my god, like that's what you get. No, it's people just on a daily basis walking past there,
Of
going
course.
home, maybe even going to work, etc. And it's
Yeah.
like,
And
that's
it's
just how-
happened like it's from 6. It's evening.
Yeah,
Kids are with the parents are
like,
out doing. But
Yeah.
it's Halloween, like, you know what I mean?
Unfortunately, it had to be this situation, but like, what the hell?
Which was
There a
preventable.
small group of people.
Yeah, and
by
people-
authorities.
Everyone just stood around watching. People, they tried really hard. There was a photographer visiting from China, and he went to Itaewon thinking he would take a lot of cool pictures since he heard the costumes were going to be going all out this year. He finds himself crushed in the alleyway instead. He's hanging onto this pole to
See?
prevent
Just
himself
photographer.
from losing balance and falling over.
Yeah.
And he was standing behind these two women. Every time like a wave of pushing would come, he would grab onto these women. He said he tried to stabilize them because he knew if they fell over, they would be dead. There would be no getting back up in this situation. He wanted to make sure that they were okay, even when he himself was not doing okay. And there were others like him. He said he looked into the crowd and saw this family. So a mom, dad, and a kid that seemed to be maybe 3, 4 years old. The dad was holding onto the baby above the crowd so the child wouldn't get crushed. And side note, it seemed like the family was passing through to get home or to the station. It's not like they were out
Yeah.
partying for Halloween with their kid. They get stuck in the crowd and they're screaming for help. He said that he saw the crowd working together to pass the child from the parents to a nearby business in the alleyway. So when the photographer made it back out alive, he went back to his hotel. He's so shaken up. I mean, he only had like 3 pictures in his camera roll that night, and all of them were before the tragedy, and everyone just seems to be so happy, just connecting with each other. And he said that his hands are shaking when his wife called him. They just had a baby, so she just gave birth recently, and she's calling from China, and this is so heartbreaking. But she called and asked about his night, and he said he came home because he just wasn't feeling it. He didn't want to tell her that he had witnessed one of the most horrific incidents of his entire life. He didn't tell her that he stood there watching people die next to him. He said that he didn't want to worry his
He had to
wife
fake
until
it.
he got home. Like, even during the
So
most
she wouldn't
traumatic
feel, like,
moments of
stressed
these people's
and
lives, even during a situation where it was life or death, a lot of these people were still putting others first. A little girl had gotten lost in the crowd. She was separated from the adults that she had come with. She had momentarily fallen down, and she felt a man helping her regain balance. And if he hadn't, she likely would have been crushed to death. She didn't know his name. She didn't have the chance to thank him. Witnesses said that the man who helped her ended up getting stuck after he pulled her out, and he ended up passing away. His name was Lee Ji-han.
Oh, yeah, I
And his
remember.
name might sound familiar,
watched that
but
show.
he was a 24-year-old actor in South Korea. He was on
He was
a few
just, like,
different
starting
shows,
off.
and he was always known to be very, in
What?
Korean it's called 매력적이, which means very charismatic. So he'd be on these shows and he would laugh on these like reality shows, and he would always cover his mouth very shyly. He just felt like such a genuine person. And the most heartbreaking part about this is that he had just signed to star in a new MBC fantasy drama that would have been his breakout role. Like that would have been,
That's crazy.
that was the role he had been looking for like his whole career. And he had what it took. He was good at his job. He was able to make people fall in love with these characters. He just wouldn't get the time. The little girl's parents expressed their gratitude and apologized to Lee Ji-han's family for his act of courage. So all the while this is happening in the middle of the crowd, just to show you how chaotic this whole incident was, some people at the top of the hill didn't even realize that there were people being trampled down at the bottom.
Yeah, how
Some
would
of them
you?
didn't even realize how dire the situation was becoming. They were just excited to get down there and have fun. And we're going to talk more about this later, but there are online speculations that a group of people had caused the crowd surge and had started pushing people down. More on that later, but for now, at 11 p.m., 30 more ambulances were deployed to the scene, as well
30.
as more personnel, more authorities, national disaster medical assistance teams, firefighters, policemen. They're all finally being dispatched to Itaewon. Finally, at 11:19, Halloween in Itaewon was called off. 10 minutes to midnight, the fire department issued a Stage 3 order, which is usually reserved for large-scale disasters. It was too late. I mean, first of all, they arrived a bit too late. I mean, even when the personnel got there, it's not like they could do much. They're just trying to resuscitate people. It was pure chaos. Add to that, there were a ton of partygoers who were wearing paramedic uniforms. They look like doctors, nurses, police, firefighters. The music is still blasting. I mean, it's hard to even decipher what the hell is going on.
Yeah, you wouldn't. It's getting probably louder and louder as the nights go on. Like there's people like chilling literally in clubs where it's happening like in bars they would not idea before until they go out at night. Could you imagine?
Jesus.
You would think you're like in an apocalypse. You're like, what the hell?
Imagine like just seeing dead people around you, like that'd be so traumatizing.
Or like 30 ambulances.
If authorities had gotten there sooner, if the victims had been treated immediately, could they have been saved? I'm not a medical
This could have been
professional,
prevented,
but
not
a lot
even
of
just
medical
saved.
Professionals online speculated that some of them,
100%.
a lot of them could have been saved. Usually after 4 to 5 minutes of enduring this level of pressure and lack of oxygen, you start heading into severe brain damage territory. So time is of the essence. I would say that there's a few different types of people that weren't a part of the crowd surge. There's the ones that were inside. So these are partygoers that were inside bars, restaurants that weren't connected to the alleyway. They probably came outside and saw all hell break loose and they had no idea what's going on. Then you have groups of people in other parts of Itaewon that hadn't seen what happened in the alleyway yet. So they don't know what's going on. They're partying on the other side of Itaewon. They're living up their Halloween weekend. Then you have those who saw what's going on and they fled. They left. They were terrified. Then there were those who stayed and tried to help authorities with CPR. And then there were a group of people, and I would like to say this is the smallest group
There
of people
always is.
that saw what happened, heard people were dying, and they continued to party.
Could you imagine?
There's a viral
Psychopaths.
clip of a bunch of people
Complete.
partying
Don't
on
even
the
need to
side of the
diagnose
street while
psychopaths.
ambulances and medical
Selfish
staff were performing
psychopaths.
CPR on the other side.
Like in plain sight?
Yeah. And this is the first clip I saw of Itaewon on the night that it happened.
I would have been shaking
What?
next to the ambulances. Like people already dead. They're trying to save whatever.
You think these people know what's going on?
A lot of people think they do. I would like to speculate that maybe they didn't know. In their defense, they said that there were a high number of ambulances present. So maybe they just thought it was like a precautionary measure.
I'm sure
They
some
were
thought that,
literally
but I feel like some knew.
responding to
Like
the
Especially if they're watching. what's
people are
happening.
nosy in nature. Like
Yeah.
you see ambulance, you will come up to like
You're
what's
gonna be
happening,
what's going on? You're not
and then
just
somebody's
say,
gonna tell you.
ambulance,
Yeah.
Let's go.
A psychopath will go, oh okay, and then continue to party. But like people that didn't know as well probably
Like
like,
I feel like if I was partying and I seen like dead people, my mood would just drop.
bro,
And
you
I'd be
see
like,
somebody
whoa.
starting a fight when you're out,
Yeah.
mood just goes fucking down.
Yeah, you just like
Completely,
Okay, what the hell?
and that's just like a fight that doesn't even start. Like people arguing, mood goes down. Like I said, I
imagine,
watched.
like,
Yeah,
seeing dead people.
yeah. Like I've watched this video. Literally, it was my fault. I watched it before I was in bed. I was like, oh, let me new videos out. I couldn't, bro. I couldn't sleep. Like I literally, I had my lights turned on. It's like it was like I was like, even though it's like I've seen other like where kids get die and pass out and like they're killed and stuff. Like I wasn't for some reason affected like that. Like as I went after watching this video, like I could not sleep. Like I think I didn't sleep the whole night. It was so terrific. So imagine like partying after.
It's been a lot, but they were
Psychos.
literally fist pumping to the song on the beach. I mean, the visual
Sex on the
impact has
beach.
been a lot. So while ambulance lights are flickering around them,
You said terrific.
What?
Terrific. Is that not like terrific? Like yeah.
No, it's terrific. Like bad.
Oh yeah, true that. Yeah. Wait a minute. sorry. That was.
Yeah, there's another word.
When people say
Yeah,
terrific.
yeah.
Something small.
ambulance lights
Yeah,
are
no,
You
you know.
just said it terrific. Like
and And to make matters worse, it said that a lot of people were so busy filming the ambulances while partying, they were blocking the medical staff from getting to the victims.
Oh.
Koreans could not, for the life of
crazy.
them, understand how that could have even happened. How could people be doing that?
Psychos.
After the crowd surge, the alleyway slowly starts getting cleared. And now we're just dealing with the aftermath. Trying to rush everyone to get medical attention. There were hundreds of people laying there motionless, needing CPR
fast,
and
baby.
needing it fast. So Anna was originally from Spain, and she had come out to Itaewon with her friends for Halloween night. She walked into the bar that night with her friends. People in costumes were laughing, taking pictures. I mean, it was a great night. And then when she walked out, it was just like an apocalypse.
Yeah.
She didn't even have time to take it all in. People start running up to her and her friends, and they're like, "Do you know how to perform CPR?" Anna didn't know, her friends did, so they're like, "Hurry, follow me." Anna's friends run off without her. She's completely alone, just standing in front of this restaurant, like confused. 3 minutes later, her friends come back, and they're crying, and they're screaming. "We tried to save them. We just tried to save like 5 or 6 people, but they died." Anna runs with them to go help more people, and she said, "I didn't know what I was doing. I just followed the others. They told me to hold these people's heads, open their mouths, and I tried, but they all died. The people we tried to help, they had already stopped breathing. There was nothing we could do." It was so traumatic. It was total pandemonium. I mean, sirens and screams and cries. Music is still blasting. Paramedics are doing CPR in the middle of the road. Partygoers are stopping and watching. Some of them are performing CPR. The only lighting is coming from the brightly colored neon lights of the bars and the ambulances. Random civilians started taking charge and administering CPR, most likely to girlfriends, boyfriends, best friends, their sisters. Like, you see these people trying to get them to come back, and it's just so desperate. A Pakistani nurse was visiting his brother that lives in Korea. They went to Itaewon just to see what Halloween was like in Korea. He ended up surviving, and he helped with the CPR efforts that night. He performed CPR on roughly 15 to 30 people that night. Now, if you guys have
so
performed
tiring.
CPR, it's
Worse.
physically incredibly taxing. It's not just like
Like people sometimes in hospitals, they have to switch places
These
when they try and
people
save
were
somebody. They have to
drenched in
switch because it's
sweat.
like you're
He said
sweating.
that
It's
he
like
worked all night long, and he saw everyone working so hard. People didn't even know who anyone was. They're just doing everything they can to try and save some people. I just want you to listen. He is speaking Korean, and he's saying, "I'm a nurse. I know how to do this." And if you don't know Korean, you might not understand, but you hear people screaming in the background, and they're screaming, "Help me, help me." He pretty much worked all into the
Man, like-
night, and the next morning he got home with his brother, and he said he couldn't even fall asleep because all he heard were the screams of everyone screaming, "Help me, help me." And he said even months later, he can't close his eyes without hearing people screaming, "Help me, help me." Also in the crowd, there was a college couple who were getting married in May of 2023, so in just a few months from when you're seeing this. They had been in the crowd, and the man did everything to try and protect his girlfriend. He tried to shield her body with his own body, and he made sure that she didn't fall. But he ended up losing consciousness, and the two were separated in the crowd. He woke up. Medical staff were like, "Okay, well, you need to go to the hospital right now." He refused. He rushed to find his girlfriend, who was laying there just on the cold ground, and he performed CPR for over an hour.
for an hour.
And she wouldn't come back. And there's more on the CPR situation we need to talk about. So most of the victims were women, naturally due to height and smaller stature. Most of the victims who passed were women. The paramedics were going around and they were unbuttoning their shirts because that's how you do CPR. It's easier for them to breathe. Apparently, this is very standard. What's not standard is some onlookers pulled out their phones and tried to record videos.
A woman's chest.
The victims were being administered CPR in an attempt to save their lives. Some people thought to film it for the internet because they were partially unclothed. People were crying out loud, "Stop filming. Everyone
Jeez.
stop filming. Just help." Their bottoms were uncovered. Even their shoes were missing. A lot of Koreans were upset because for these victims, even in their last moments, it's like they were being robbed of their dignity. It's
That's
just a
crazy.
gut-wrenching feeling. There were hundreds of people down in the ground at this point. Once the chaos was somewhat contained in terms of the chaos of the alleyway and the partygoers were shuffled out, the victims were rushed to ambulances and to the hospitals. But by this point, it's too late. Most of the bodies were laying on the side of the road with blankets covering them. Their bodies were being put on stretchers to be taken to the hospital, but there were no signs of life, really. Most of the victims had already passed, but they had been left just on the road for more than an hour because there were too many victims that rescuers couldn't transport them all to the hospital quickly enough. A Chinese student who was in Korea at the time, she was in one of the big bars of Itaewon, and she had no idea any of this was going on. She said she walked outside at 2 a.m. Remember, the crowd surge started happening around 10:15. She walked out, and she felt like the world had ended. Quite literally. She said that there were paramedics everywhere doing CPR on lifeless bodies. There were still sirens. She said, I saw rows of people covered with cloth blankets, and I felt like I was confronted with corpses. The first official death toll was issued by authorities at 2:30 in the morning. They stated 59 people had died and 150 people were injured. An hour later, the numbers rose to 120 people that were dead, with 100 injured. And it would rise again. And side note about these injured, I know sometimes we hear these numbers and you're like, well, what does injured mean? Like, do they have small scratches? Like, what's going on? I'm pretty sure it varies, but it's pretty bad. People had broken bones everywhere, fractures. They were going to need surgeries, nonstop medical attention.
Yeah, you
A lot
definitely
of the
wouldn't come
injuries
out
were
out of that with just a
life-changing.
scratch or two.
And if they weren't, they were really
Like, damages probably
there
for
was a
your
Chinese
whole
survivor,
life.
let's call her Miss A. She said she barely survived the crowd
Mostly
surge.
mental
Even
damage.
thinking about what happened that night, she feels like she's
That's the thing. That's the thing. Physical can heal.
Yeah.
Or like get
mental is
better,
hard
or
to
you know,
heal.
if it's like not very tragic, like, but mental.
She said she thinks it helped that she
Can
was
become
relatively
easier,
tall
but it's still
compared to
there
the other
always
people in the crowd.
mental.
But it just felt like hundreds and hundreds of pounds were pressing on her chest. She could barely stretch her neck up to breathe. She said her neck was
The
clamped to
PTSD,
one side
imagine.
and she couldn't move
Never
it
going
back
to any
forward.
crowd, not
She
shop,
couldn't
not
move
mall,
it to
any
the other
crowd.
side. Her
Answers
neck was
nothing.
like perpetually
Scared.
stuck looking to her left. And she was forced to watch the girl on her left die.
She couldn't move her head,
She
so she was like
suffocated.
watching.
And she couldn't even turn away because she didn't have room to move her neck. Soon after that, she felt something strange on her back, and she later realized that the person behind her was throwing blood up on her. A lot of people actually vomited. A lot of the dead bodies were seen with vomit around their faces because when you suffocate to death, oftentimes
Crushed?
you vomit.
Is it?
She said that it was so tight.
Is it maybe because it's? Is it because the crushed, scratch, like the what's it called, ribs? If they're pressing them, because like lungs are covered by ribs, right? They're like protected. So like probably when they like get crushed and it's like
your ribs collapse in.
yeah,
That's
and
what
so they
makes
probably
you,
scratches everything and like it
that's why you
destroys.
can't breathe.
The
Your
blood
lips
as well.
start closing in.
Yeah.
You do vomit. She said that it was so tight she couldn't even move her fingers, and it felt like 300 people were just pushing her, and her legs went numb for about an hour. She couldn't feel her legs.
Wouldn't the legs be
Eventually,
gone by that
She
time?
was carried out by a firefighter
Well, it
to the
depends
roadside.
how
She
much.
was rushed to the hospital.
Well, she said numb
She
for
said
an
she
hour,
still
bro.
needs to get
No,
x-rays for
saying
her
how-
chest
with the
because
pressure,
it's been really, like it hurts when she takes a breath. Another survivor, Juliana, she's a 23-year-old student from Mexico who is studying in Seoul. She said she went with a friend to Itaewon, and as they were heading into the subway station to go home at 10 p.m., the minute that they stepped into the alleyway, Juliana and her friend were separated. It was pure chaos. She said it was like this uncontrollable force that was pushing her down. Her feet lifted from the ground and she couldn't go back, she couldn't go forward. Whatever the crowd was moving in, whatever direction, that's where she was going. An unconscious person fell on top of Juliana and she said it was pure panic. She started hyperventilating. She had to calm herself down. She started blacking out. The noise of the crowd started feeling quieter and quieter, and she couldn't feel her legs. She couldn't even move a single toe. She said she started thinking, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be next. It felt like she was just waiting for death. And somehow, by some miracle, a young man standing on a high platform on the edge of the alleyway was able to wiggle her out and save her. She had been trapped like that for nearly 50 minutes. She said she looked around and there were dead bodies everywhere, and
Oh yeah,
she
it's
was
like
severely shaken
they came out
but she
after
went
10
home
or
that
something,
night,
wasn't it? So
and
that's
she thought
like
it was just
when it
nerves,
happened.
but the next day she had a crazy fever. She was hospitalized and diagnosed with necrosis of her leg. Basically,
See?
when blood flow is cut off from a part of your body, the tissues start to die.
Yeah.
In severe cases, this can be fatal. It's when your limbs literally start dying and it can start spreading. Thankfully, she's recovering, but the pain is really bad. One of her legs is still very blue, very swollen. She can't walk properly. If she even breathes too hard or too fast, she feels immense chest pain. And these are just the physical injuries. In the end, 159 people died in the Itaewon Halloween tragedy, including the deaths of 26 foreign citizens from 14 different nations. The overwhelming majority were Korean citizens and women. 102 women and 57 men. 158 died from suffocation, and one person later committed suicide. 196 people were physically injured. Physically. Keep this in mind. That's not including mental, emotional, because the trauma that these survivors, the first responders, the fire department, the trauma that this whole nation is going to carry with them. I mean, the real number of those impacted and injured and the families of the victims whose lives are just never going to be the same. Like, there's no way to put a definitive number on that. Like, it's hard to put a number on a whole nation's pain. So when news breaks of this, parents are glued to their phones. And it sounds selfish to say, but many of them were probably thinking, I hate myself for thinking this, but please, God, like, let it not be my kids. Many parents were alerted later on by officials that their child had passed away. And they didn't believe it because, I mean, just think about how shocking that is. How do you comprehend that? Your kids go out, they're going to be home relatively early. They talked to you just an hour or two ago. Many of the kids were going out to eat with friends. One mother of a victim said, I didn't believe it until we got to the hospital. I didn't believe it until I saw my own son with my own two eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And she said since then, her whole family has been broken. Her husband, the victim's father, has attempted suicide. And their daughter, who sees them in pain, she cries to them, it should have been me that died. It should have been me instead. Another mom rushed to the hospital only to see that her daughter had died. And she said, it's truly devastating to identify your own child. When I go to bed, I can't get that picture out of my head, so I can't sleep anymore. The parents, they couldn't understand what had happened to her, so they got her phone and they said at 9:35 p.m., their daughter was taking pictures smiling in a bar. Then at 10 p.m., she texted her friend that she was going to go home now. She's going to go to the Itaewon station and go home. She took a couple more pictures smiling, and then on her way to the subway station, she got caught in the crowd surge and died. Her friend who survived later said that they weren't even trying to use that alleyway to get to the station. It was so crowded up until that alleyway, it's like they got sucked into it like a vacuum. Her friend ended up surviving, and she said it was so bad. She lost her shoes. Her feet weren't even touching the ground. She was just
crazy.
being moved by the crowd. They
So
got
being
separated.
sucked into it.
And her parents they look at these last pictures taken of her on her phone, and her dad said, she's smiling. Look at her smile. Look at her face. And her mom would cry, she's my best friend. She's my best friend.
Oh Will-suk and Kim Un-mi look through photos on her phone, trying to piece together how Jimin became one of the 158 victims of Seoul's Halloween crowd crush.
I can't look at the photos, they make me cry.
That image of her keeps coming to me, so I can't sleep at night.
It snowed yesterday and got cold. Jimin is buried outside. It makes me more sad.
A lot of parents gathered at a press conference, and you can hear them scream at one point, take us and
Stop.
bring our kid. Point, take us. You can hear them scream at one point, take us and bring our kids back. Many of the parents are heard apologizing to their kids about what happened. And I can't even imagine the pain of the guilt that these parents are going to carry just for the rest of their lives. I mean, I'm not saying that's a logical feeling. I'm not saying that they should feel guilty, but that's how parents feel.
It's natural.
One father found out at the hospital that both his daughter's arms had been broken before she passed away. And now all he can do is visit her at her resting place, and he tells her, "Appa 왔어," which means Dad is here. Dad is here. He said, I should have taken more care of her. She was a precious daughter to us.
You see, like days, that week's passed already, because it's so clean.
Ja, 어서.
There is said to have been over 1 ton in weight of items left behind in the Itaewon tragedy, just belongings, mainly from the deceased. So bags, clothes just left in the alleyway because they were getting ripped off and the shoes were falling off. There were 123 handbags, 258 pieces of clothing, and 256 pairs of shoes. They were all laid out in a gym in Seoul, and parents and families were called to search for their belongings of their loved ones. And there's this heartbreaking moment where a mother walks in and she recognizes her daughter's handbag. And just to see her reaction to seeing her daughter's bag is so heartbreaking. I don't even have the words. At a press conference, another mom played a song that her son sent her. And at the end, he says in a voice memo, "엄마, happy birthday. I love you." And just seeing her break down as she listens to his voice again.
Oh, that's the actor, the guy that...
By November 1st, the funeral homes in Seoul were overflowing. They were filled with bodies of young people who were just starting their lives. So many of them had just graduated high school. Some of them were just in college or they had just graduated. I mean, this is the beginning of their lives, and now they're gone. In one funeral home, 28-year-old James Sim's body was put to rest. And in the room next door, his best friend Yoon was put to rest. And in the funeral home across town, his girlfriend was put to rest. All three of them had died that night. And the one thing that James's parents kept saying was, our son loved to work out. He spent most of his free time in the gym. So how could that not have even saved him? And I think that just shows you genuinely the true dangers of a crowd surge. It doesn't matter your fitness level, your physique. It's just that dangerous. The parents cried, "James is the best older brother out there. How is our younger son ever going to cope?" A bunch of James's friends who didn't attend Itaewon that night, they came to the funeral home and they all sat in silence grieving for James. And when they were done, they couldn't go home. They couldn't lay down and cry themselves to sleep. They had to go to the next room over and grieve for their other friend, Yoon. There were altars set up all around South Korea for mourners to pay their respect. A lot of flowers were brought. Some with soju bottles were left for the victims. Many people bowed to the victims as a sign of ultimate respect.
That's crazy.
도저히 못 참겠더라고. 언제까지 이럴 거예요, 진짜? 에? 이래가지고 경제 발전하면 뭐 할 거예요? 에? 3만 머리, 5만 머리 뭐 하냐고. 젊은이들 다 죽여놓고. 에? 언제까지 이럴 거예요? 불쌍한 애들. 에? 나가지고 키워서 고등학교, 대학 보내가지고.
The man who is breaking down, talking about what good is a strong economy, I think there is a lot of trauma left over from the ferry incident in 2014.
I told you about
where
that.
over
Just
300
He was a
people
part
died,
of
a
it.
majority of them young students. We're going to get into that in a second, but I think the whole nation kind of united in these moments. The whole nation was...
No, he wasn't, I don't know, actually, he wasn't part of it. It's just he's how many times can this happen? The neglect there and the neglect here. It's same.
It's the whole nation was so devastated by this. I mean, even here in the US, I didn't know a single Korean that did not feel immense sadness for what was going on. Many Koreans came out to hold up candles and these memorials all over South Korea. It's estimated that over 100,000 people came out to grieve. But slowly that sadness and that grief would turn to anger because it's okay, now we want some answers. So the first person that, not the families of the victims, the internet went for were the so-called pushers. So there were words of survivors that sent chills down people's backs. A lot of survivors were interviewed and they said, "We were all suffocating, and from behind we could hear people screaming, 'Push, push, push.'" The survivor said that the crowd started feeling these pushes in different intervals.
Jesus.
Like you were up against a massive wave, just being pushed, regaining balance, and then being pushed again. There's a couple of videos where you can see, I guess, waves in the crowd, if you can call it that.
Hey. Jesus. It's not natural.
It just seems like people are standing static and then they're being pushed in these wave-like motions. But the unsettling part was the survivor is saying that a group of people were pushing the crowds on purpose. More and more survivors came out to confirm these stories, and they said, yes, there were a group of guys screaming push, and they were pushing hard. One survivor said that they heard a guy say, let's just all push, kids, push, push, push. The survivor said they could see the crowd surge and they were all thrusting forward and a bunch of people started collapsing in front of them. A lot of survivors all seconded this story, and some even mentioned seeing a guy with a rabbit headband being the leader of the pushers. They said that they heard him scream, "Go crazy, kids, push." One survivor said about the rabbit headband man, "I really felt like I was in hell. People in front of me were crying for help. They said that they were dying and couldn't breathe. People behind me were screaming and pushing, and I was like, wow, this is what hell feels like. My feet were lifted up from the ground. I couldn't breathe. Suddenly someone grabbed me with their hand, and I was crying. They had saved me. Like, they shouted at me to make myself pull myself together. There were still people around us screaming, partying, singing. It was so evil. It truly felt like hell. I saw people being crushed together and dying. If I ever see that person with the rabbit headband again, I would gladly stab them." Another witness said, "I can't believe what had happened. I saw people laughing. I'm not sure if they found it funny or if they were too scared to know what to do." What's wild is that during this entire tragedy, there were people that were still partying, like I said. A survivor from India, Nuville, said that it felt like waves were coming down on him. There was nothing you could do. It felt like you were being sucked in the crowd, and it's like the crowd has a mind of its own. The only reason he said he survived was a woman, ironically wearing angel wings, waved to him, and he was able to find his way up to a high step in the alleyway. And from there, he could see people dying. He said there were so many of them, there was nothing he could do. He felt so helpless. He tried to scan the crowd for his friends. He reached for his phone. Nobody picked up. The most heartbreaking part was that he saw this man on the side of the road afterwards, just tunnel vision, performing CPR on his friend, just going at it, not taking a moment to breathe for like 30 minutes. He had sweat dripping down. I mean, he himself was so out of breath, like 30 minutes. People tried to drag him away because everyone knew that his friend was gone. But he still went on for 30 minutes. And Neil said it was evil because he turned to the right and he saw a few people fixing their faces while this was all happening, as if nothing had happened. Another witness survivor said they lost faith in all humanity that day. Now, back to the pushers. People in the back felt like they could push their way through the alleyway, and allegedly some of them screamed, "We need to push to get through." Some even said that the two Korean words, push and go back. So you had half the group wanting to go back, and then you had half the group wanting to push. It was just at odds, and above the loud music, the chaos of the screams, it was hard to hear what people were saying. So mira means push, mira, and then tiro.
So miro, tweedle, it's like,
So mira, tiro.
it sounds the same, especially the sound.
Confusing.
Yeah, so with the music, maybe it was confusing. So netizens took their jobs as internet sleuths seriously. They were able to find out who the rabbit headband guy was. They tracked him down online. They start leaving him comments, messages, telling him, you better turn yourself into the police because you are the killer. You're the cause of this tragedy. It looked like they weren't going to stop until he was taken down. The rabbit headband man went on to Instagram to state that he and his friends were being hunted down, and he said, "Yes, that's me in the rabbit headband in the pictures. But my friends and I had already left Itaewon station when the crowd surge happened, so we were not the ones pushing. Like, maybe there's another guy with a rabbit headband, but it's not me." He posted his subway ticket to show proof, and it showed that he did indeed leave Itaewon station.
There wasn't so another guy with the rabbit head.
The police were also able to confirm that he was not in Itaewon at the time of the crowd search, and he wasn't found responsible for the pushing. There were other rumors of a guy that went around pouring oil on the ground so that people would slip and fall.
I don't remember
Those
this.
were later
I said it at the same time.
But the witch hunt didn't end there. I mean, I think people were just looking for someone to blame. A lot of angry netizens were looking for just anyone. Even journalists started to blame people. I think they were just looking for provocative stories. So they started blaming.
This is another thing about journalists in Korea. They're so unethical. It's crazy. They will do like, not obviously all of them, but like most of them, the loudest ones, you know, the do clickbait fucking shit. Like imagine, like just to get clickbait and get money, you're like turning something like clickbait out of like such tragedy. Crazy.
Provocative stories. So they started blaming a very popular live streamer. Let's call him K. Netizens
Blame
speculated
everybody
that K
except
was
the
reason
authority
for
that
the
could have
crowd
prevented
surge
this.
because he streamed that he was in Itaewon and all of his viewers swarmed to see him, causing an influx of the traffic. So they were like, it's his fault for so recklessly telling his viewers that he was in
That's
Itaewon.
stupid.
And then he was like, no, I happened to be in Itaewon and I couldn't leave the bar because it was so dangerous. In the same breath, another celebrity was being blamed. Yuain, he lives in Itaewon.
I literally know him.
Everyone speculated that he went out and people started spotting him outside, and that's
And
why
how is that
they
his
flocked
fault?
to Itaewon.
He can't live now?
But in
He
this
can't go
case,
anywhere? As if
Mr.
he knew this was gonna
Yuki came
happen.
out to say that he wasn't even in South Korea at the time of the
And let's be
tragedy.
honest, like if his fans, like they're older or whatever, they're probably already there. Like they're already going to party. Like everybody were going to go party there.
Especially if they
it
didn't know
genuinely
he was
just seemed
there
like
beforehand. They
people
just
were
seen
going
him.
out
Yeah.
to blame one individual. They were just trying to find someone. But that was proving to be very difficult. So
crazy.
briefly, the public, the netizens, the journalists, they start blaming the businesses.
That
They
can
start
ruin
turning
someone's
their
life
attention
too,
on
though, you
businesses.
know?
Blaming
They said
businesses,
people didn't
bro.
help out with the crowd surge.
Because it didn't let
Businesses
every
in the
single
alleyway
person
could
in.
have saved people.
Sure, what would be
prevented
the
crowd
difference if
surge.
they all
That's what
started
they're
going in
saying.
the
Now,
building?
It'd
a
be
lot of
squashed
this
in there.
stems from the fact that a bar, Waikiki Bar, was seen closing their doors and not letting victims in. But one of the owners and the employees have come out and said, basically in the beginning, when the crowd surge was just happening and people were running in, we didn't know what was going on. We thought they were drunk. We thought they were drunk and like having a blast and like screaming and like running into so we closed the doors. I mean, it was strange. But when we realized what was happening in the alleyway, we opened our doors, we let people in, we all started doing CPR. But it didn't matter because netizens were going crazy. They flooded the store owners with really nasty messages. Employees from the Waikiki Bar said, I will never forget the look of the eyes of someone I performed CPR on. He also stated that there was a distinct smell that started coming from the crowd surge, and he'll never forget it. He said, my heart beats so much that I have to take sedatives every day. No matter how much I drink, I can't fall asleep. I just keep thinking about the look in their eyes. The police even fueled this rumor that it was the business's fault by stating
Police,
businesses
bro.
specifically
The
told
people that
police
are
to
literally
ease up
are
on
the
police
biggest at
presence
fault
this year
because for this.
these businesses wanted people to party so that they could make more money.
That's
Which
crazy.
personally,
It's like there's them saying that they're calling people literal idiots, like muppets that can be controlled by business. Know they were going there to business that already exists there.
Yeah.
Like what the?
It's not like they just
What?
moved there and
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that.
personally-
No, the businesses are like
Halloween
calm, like the
the
fuck.
business owners would later state, no, we didn't say that. And even if we did, what are you saying? Like,
Yeah, what
you're
the-
really just going to listen to us? Like, when have you guys ever listened to business owners? And we're like, you know
Yeah.
what? You're right. Let me just not show up. And side
Yeah,
note,
yeah, yeah.
the
Yeah.
businesses in Itaewon, they're not doing well. Even months after the tragedy.
Yeah, imagine,
a lot
that's
of
it,
them are
business is
sadly
gone.
Dead. I mean, Itaewon has kind of become more of a ghost town these days. People said it just feels wrong to go there and have fun. And this
That
is
would be
literally
true,
a
though.
city
Yeah.
that
That
was
would
known
be
for
so
its
wrong to go.
like fun life,
yeah.
like
Like,
bars, restaurants,
plus
shopping,
knowing
these
that happened, it'd be
activities.
scary to
They
go
said they're all
back, like-
suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Some business owners said, you know, it's been rough. We were hit with COVID, and then when finally things opened up again, now no one comes to Itaewon. And not only that, but we had to live through that night, trying to save people and being traumatized. So a lot of these business owners, these employees, they have a lot of trauma from the incident. They're emotionally, mentally scarred, and add to that their financial pressures. A business owner said there's no sales, like none, not even one throughout the day. So it was clear that the businesses were not to blame. So since individuals in attendance, the businesses, they couldn't be blamed, the internet started making it very political. Now, this is very intense, and like this, when you start going into the whole Itaewon story, there's so many layers to it. I mean, you think it's just first police planning, the city planning isn't good, and then it just gets very crazy. So October 29th, earlier in the day, there were these protests throughout Seoul. A lot of it happening in Yongsan, which is the province that Itaewon is inside of Seoul. Now, there were protests everywhere, and they were like labor unions protesting. They were close to Itaewon. There were reports of 18 different rallies and protests taking place the day of October 29th, and they were big. Like about 30,000 people were out protesting. Now, the right-wing individuals are trying to blame the left wing. So the labor unions, they're typically associated with the left wing, and basically, they said because of these protests, police had to be dispersed throughout the province, and they used up all the manpower, making sure that the protests were contained and nobody got hurt during the protests, that they didn't have any more resources for the Halloween weekend. But the left-wing groups fought back for that reasoning, and they said, no, it's dumb to even draw these conclusions. So on the weekends, nobody should protest. And the current president, President Yoon, he's a conservative, and we've talked about him before on the Stephanie Sue channel. He's made some very controversial moves, such as moving out of the Blue House, basically leaving the White House to live somewhere else. And that somewhere else is in Yongsan, which is the province that Itaewon is in. And that's going to suck up a lot of resources, especially with the police department, because there was a set protocol in place when the president was in the Blue House. And now they're adding just a lot more chaos, I guess. It's speculated that 700 police officers were busy commuting to and from the president's new residence. Basically, people on the left were saying because the conservative president unnecessarily moved, the Yongsan police were too busy accommodating his new residence and keeping him safe. They didn't have enough manpower to protect the civilians in Itaewon that weekend.
Literally protecting one person.
700.
Just going back and forth because he decided to move out of a place that was already had a set protocol of protection and stuff outside of the police. So he decided to move, and the police had to go back and forth.
Then, like 700, like they say.
Yeah, but it's like now that they decide, that's for me, like the authoritative like mindset in there is like if they tell you to do something, you do it. Otherwise, you're gonna lose your job or something.
700 for one person.
That's what I mean. That's why they didn't come, bro.
You don't even see that anywhere else, like presidents.
I don't think that's a theory. That's like a whole fucking truth bomb right there. Like you're it's the higher ups that like told them to protect one person except like one. You know
but I mean, like before it escalated to where it did, they wouldn't need like so much police officers.
But they weren't told like exactly. So maybe they were. That's what I'm saying. Maybe they were like told not to report anything. Like because like any event that's really happening, there's supposed to be police there already. Yeah. But there was none, and so I'm sure maybe they were dispatchers were told like don't bother us with bullshit from like
Aliens in Itaewon that weekend. A lot of people were calling on him to step down, the president.
I would too.
But the conservatives were arguing with them, and the whole thing just got super political. Now, to be fair, Koreans had a lot of other things that they were mad at the government for. The most recent tragedy of the Sewol boat sinking in 2014, 306 people, majority of them students, died when a ferry sank off the southwest coast of the country. Government response was really bad. Like the president was shitting.
They were like high school students.
It was just really gross. The government focused on their image rather than prioritizing lives. So as the boat was sinking and in the key moments where lives could have been saved, the government straight up refused help from other countries because they would look bad on them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there was like an American Navy ship or something close by.
Oh my God.
And they were like, we're ready to go. We're ready to save them. They were like, nope, we're going to do it ourselves. Yeah. While kids were like dying in the ship and it was sinking. See what I mean? That has a huge problem.
Right there.
Stubbornness, I'm telling you. They like want to be the best. Like, no, we can do this. They did fuck all.
Just a few dead kids died and died just to protect her.
Yep.
Without them protecting.
Like they were literally anyone that survived from that ship was because like people that had boats or that were divers, just civilians, they were going and saving them. Like they didn't even send anybody official to take out dead kids from the ship, like that was sunk already. Civilians were going diving in and saving them. Civilians, like taking out dead kids and stuff. Like that's so hard and so emotionally. Like I think there was somebody that like a lot of these civilian divers that did it. They died too because they were so traumatized.
Of course.
Because they would look bad on them. Saved. The government straight up refused help from other countries because they would look bad on them. They tried to downplay the severity of the event. I mean, it was so gross. So a lot of people with that trauma lingering in literally every Korean's minds, a lot of people are like, wait a minute, the government should be the one responsible. Everyone pays taxes in Korea. That's what the police are supposed to do. I mean, it's like that in the US. If there's a big concert in the area, if there's a big game,
In any
police
fucking
have
world.
meetings about it. There's a protocol, there's a
Any fucking
coordinated
world, any
strategy. Like
country.
these are the departments that are responsible for making sure that everyone is safe, even if it's not like a police event. Like you have a big concert, police are going to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just like this secretly planned event. Someone said, I mean, everyone knew what was going to happen. In
Especially after
People were
COVID, the
gonna
first
hurt.
event.
Someone said the government is responsible.
They should have been
for
on
such
deck,
work.
all hands available.
They should have planned ahead. They should have sent out enough police. They should have evacuated people accordingly. They should have controlled the crowds. I mean, even the signs were so clear. Like, even as the night progressed,
From
you didn't
evening.
have to be in Itaewon to know that it was getting overcrowded. Even the subway stations were jam-packed. Everyone was swarming to Itaewon Station, and basically they all
Alarm bells should have
traveled to
went
that
off like
tight
very
alleyway
early
to
on.
get to their destinations.
But like, if it was the whole event was properly planned by the obviously the government or whatever, like the town officials, like even seeing the buzz, obviously there's probably a buzz on internet and groups and, you know, socials and whatever about people planning to go to this one place. Like if they were properly planning, they would have seen that and they were prepared already for the amount of people that were, you know, buzzing about it online, preparing to go there. Like it could have been all fucking been okay. But nope, let's protect the president because he wants to go to a different
The
place.
government response was just really bad. The Korean Premier Minister Han Duck-soo was doing an international press conference about the incident, and due to technical issues, he couldn't hear the translator properly, like asking a question. So he smiles and he said, "Who's responsible for me not hearing the interpreter?" It's just really
Throw up.
distasteful. Like his attitude, his
Disgusting
energy
motherfucker.
was very, what are you doing? A lot of netizens wrote,
Like-
I can't believe I just heard- like, is he being sarcastic right now? Like, this is crazy.
That's just
Is this the
crazy.
time or place to be cracking these cute little jokes?
Yeah.
Like, how can you even smile and laugh in this situation? The next day, he apologized. But it gets
Like
worse.
I
Shove
just
that apology up your ass.
I was just because we took a break.
Come on.
We took a break like a few minutes ago, and I was telling my brother, I was like, it's like I feel bad for like having a little giggle while watching this, just because I feel so uncomfortable and I don't want to cry. So like that kind of emotion comes out sometimes, you know. It's like now we're actually finding it funny. It's just like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening. So like a giggle comes out, and then like my brother was saying, and then the whole like, oh my god, what the fuck, actually.
Few minutes.
But he's like, what? Like he had
But
time
the
process
fact-
everything.
The fact is that he's in the
High-
government.
yeah,
you know,
like he should have a
not
face.
show that. Like us,
Yeah.
if it happens somewhere, we just
He
giggle
should
and then
look
you-
like he lost somebody there because he will,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? People relied on him and his government to protect the people that died. And he's
like I
cracking
never
jokes.
ever get into politics or anything like because I don't really like it and it's just too much. Like,
And if you're
you
a
never
good-
trust any of them. Like, you don't know what's real and what's not. So I don't get into it. But like, when you see that kind of shit, it's like, what the fuck?
Even if you go into politics
Like-
with intentions, it's like I feel like it's hard to keep it because it's like then you go
Exactly,
in
yeah.
and you're like, sure, like even presidents, they don't have all the control. They have to have like agreements and stuff and from everybody.
That's
like-
crazy though. What the hell, smiling there? Like, what an idiot, bro.
Yeah, whose fault is it that I can't hear?
issues.
Next day, he apologized. But it gets worse, Jen. It's like, how can you even smile and laugh in this situation?
That fixed
The next day,
everything.
he
Apologized.
But it gets worse. Do you remember the 16-year-old high schooler in the beginning of the
Yeah.
episode who took his own life because he lost his friends in the deadly tragedy? Well, the premier minister basically told the press that that victim should have been more committed to getting mental health treatment. The basic preventative measure that the government can take is this. But the victims themselves need to want to receive treatment. They need to be persistent. Only then can the government support them. Yeah, well, you can just see how that went over.
Yeah.
And finally, with enough pressure, the South Korean
Bitch, let's traumatize you. Let's do a simulation of that whole situation and see how you're gonna behave and how you're gonna act.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like it's like you're so in your like so emotionally there that when that happens, you're like, yeah, I need to go fix myself. I need to get help. No, you're literally stuck in your body. You don't know what to do. You're like, you don't know what to think. Like
you're
all
not
the bad
there,
things.
Can't say nothing. Like,
What the
oh
fuck?
yeah, get mental help because
We can only help you when you help yourself, buddy. It's like, what the fuck? It's not only one person affected, it's a whole family.
And finally, with enough pressure,
Friends,
the South
everybody.
Korean government decided to list the high schooler as a victim of the Itaewon tragedy.
Yeah.
The government originally
He was
did not
affected by
want
it.
to add the 16-year-old who committed suicide into the death toll. The government didn't know because it gets super technical, but the families of the victims could be able to receive some government assistance when it comes to mental health help and funeral costs. So I think for the parents, they wanted him to be listed as a victim of the tragedy, not for the money, but because he was. This is why he died. If that incident didn't have happened, he wouldn't have taken his life. It's pretty straightforward. So yes, he is a victim of the Itaewon tragedy. But you can see how the government had incentive to not have him listed. They didn't want to raise the death toll. They most likely didn't want to acknowledge the level of trauma that the incident would cause to the survivors, to everyone. So after the government's response, the president also said his condolences, but it was just very...
Go away.
Yeah.
And again, this has nothing to do with like political parties or who the
Who
president
fucking gives
is
a
or
fuck
what he
about
stands for.
words?
I
Actions,
just think in any
bitch.
situation like this, it's just a very lukewarm response. It was very PR. So after the government response, parents of the victims, they weren't happy. One of them said, this is a PR response.
Yeah,
They
it's
should
PR
show
move.
us that they're working hard to
Yeah.
prevent things like this
Yeah,
from ever
definitely.
happening again. Like, we need to know what's being implemented so it doesn't take place.
Exactly.
Another victim's mother was so angry, she tore up the condolence wreaths that were gifted to her by the president
Of course.
Good on ya.
She
What the
said
hell?
the government failed to protect the children.
That's
Flowers
like
and leaves.
that's like almost like laughing in their face. Like, oh,
I'm
this should
sorry.
fix it. A paper should fix
A
it.
few words on a piece of paper will make you
No fucking
better
words. You,
about the fact
if
that
you want to
lost someone.
apologize, don't say shit. Fucking fall down on your knees, stay there for fucking hours, and then stand up and start fucking acting. Start helping. Start fucking making sure that this shit never happens again. Like, the fuck? This is what I mean. They just don't learn in there. The government doesn't learn. Like, one tragedy happens, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, this will never happen, and the same shit happens again. Like, crazy.
Like, oh,
I know, it's
I can't
unbelievable.
even imagine.
Said the government failed to protect the children. Flowers are useless. Do you remember Yejin? She dressed up as Princess Jasmine in the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
Her dad visits her every day. She was his only child. She was his whole life. And he said in another interview, children who lose their parents are orphans. But there is no word for parents who lose their
Oh,
children.
yeah?
But I think I found one. Sinner. I feel so guilty for losing her. And he's mad. He's angry.
And the
He said
motherfuckers that are
government is trying to
responsible
get the money
won't
for
even
funeral
fucking
costs,
blink an
which
eye.
The funeral
They'll
costs
sleep
were said
peacefully.
to have been about $11,000
Or
a
laugh about a
victim,
technical
and
issue.
medical
Yeah, yeah.
attention, medical help. I think $7,000 in medical help for the survivors. And he said, "We can live without the money. We can't live without our daughter. This is not the way to help us right now. This is not how you help."
Yeah, just
the
throw
grieving
money in their
parents and
faces.
families. They're not taking accountability. They're just all shifting the blame to everybody else. And as a parent, it fuels me with rage. He said, if we get a proper apology and see those responsible punished, it would reduce my anger maybe 1/10 of 1,000th. But at least a little bit.
알라딘에 나오는 자스민 공주 옷을 빼어갔더라고요. 그걸 입고서 내 앞에서 패션쇼를 하면서 다 큰 지지가이가 패션쇼 하면서 아빠 나 이쁘지 이쁘지 하면서 아니 깨방정을 떠오르는데 자기네 잘못을 인정하기는커녕 다른 사람한테 책임을 전가하고 책임을 회피하고 이런 작태를 보면 분노가 치밀어 올라요.
All the families want is a government apology, an honest investigation into how things happened. Many of the parents agree that this is murder. Murder by lack of organization, murder by omission. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, they anticipated many people were going to be there for Halloween. They had a meeting. The government had a meeting about how it was estimated that 100,000 people were going to gather in Itaewon, and they didn't prepare for it.
Yeah,
A parent
that's
shook their head and said, I don't understand that. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Many of the parents were also saddened by the public reaction. One said, did the kids all go to heaven simply because they went out to have a good time? I don't think that's right. Because a lot of people make it seem like these kids wanted to have fun, so they had to pay the price. But that's not what happened here. Another person weighed in. The government always talks about how
Online
they can't
people.
prevent an accident like this from happening.
I'm
but
never
now
gonna
they
think
need to come
about
up with
having fun
practical
again in
measures
my
to make sure
lifetime.
it
In
never
that
happens.
case,
Right.
just gonna
And
stay in the
parents
house and
And I think another good
hibernate
place for
and
that
just
anger is with
be
the
on the
police and the
internet.
police
But then
chief
still,
of
by online people will still be doing something wrong.
Yeah, of course.
It's
yeah.
just it's the loudest minority. It's like small amount of people that are so fucking loud and
like
so
everyone
obnoxious.
has an opinion there, and they're fucking sitting at home, fucking scratching their ass.
Yeah,
Like they haven't experienced half the shit, and they
have never been affected by any.
Like they're just
thing.
saying what they see and think is the right way, but until you.
If you only didn't go out and were so fucking selfish for wanting to have fun with your friends,
stay at home,
because
be
I
like
don't have
me.
friends and I stay home. Literally, that's people who probably have no
Be
friends.
like me, like don't go out. You know, I'm here.
Yeah, I choose to not have friends and I have a social life. Right, buddy. Okay.
You don't need to drink to go out. They
No.
just, like,
There was what are they gonna say about the families that were just passing by with the kid? What the fuck are they
don't
talking
go out
about?
on Halloween there because
Yeah.
You should have known.
Now they need to come up with practical measures to
Be a
make sure it
psychic,
never
basically.
happens again. The parents are angry. And I think another good place for that anger is with the police and the police chief of the Yongsan department.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on with the police? It said that the police initially planned for 200 police officers to be at Itaewon for Halloween, but that night only 137 officers were on duty in the area, which even 200 doesn't sound like a lot.
But where
because
were
the
they?
words Halloween and Itaewon were trending on so many different social media
This is what I was talking
platforms.
about. Social
YouTubers,
media.
Streamers, they were all telling their viewers that they were going to be in Itaewon. A lot of people were drawing attention to Itaewon's Halloween festivities. It wasn't like this, oh my god, I'm so shocked so many people showed up. There were so many phone calls made to the police alerting them of the dangerous situation unfolding. It said that from 6 to 8 p.m., 28 reports were made about the overcrowding situation. From 8 to 10 p.m., 51 reports were made. And right before the accident, another 79 reports
200.
were made.
Oh my
and during all these reports that came before the incident, this is not even including during the incident when people were collapsing. Only 4 police officers were actually dispatched to the scene. And I don't know if they did anything. Like, maybe they told their superiors that something bad was happening and the superiors didn't care. I don't know. Maybe they didn't think anything was happening. And the first reports came in 4 hours before the actual tragedy. One survivor said, "It would have been nice if there were policemen trying to maintain order, but there was not a single police officer in the beginning that I saw. And once the accident happened, it was hard for them to enter the scene and help." So after the tragedy, there was an investigation into the police, and an official said, "Oh, those reports coming in, they were just general reports about inconveniences that residents had." So police chief of the Yongsan Police Department, Lee In-jae, he was investigated. And wow. Okay, so the day of the incident, when the reports of the dangerous conditions were coming in, the police chief decides that he's going to end up...
When in your country, the police are being investigated themselves, you know you have a problem. Like a big problem in your country.
It's just...
going back to the police. Chief decides that he's going to end up going
The
back
chief
to
of the police
station.
that controls
But
everything.
instead of walking there, which would have been a 10-minute walk, he decides he's going to drive to the police station. And it would take him nearly an hour to drive to the police station.
Lazy
in critical
motherfucker.
moments, because he didn't want to walk. Then when he gets to the station, he goes up onto the rooftop to check it out. He's thinking that maybe he can see the alleyway from the police station rooftop. But imagine, people are in danger and you're like, let me walk up to the roof to see what's going on. Additionally, he tried to hide what his schedule was like the day of the incident, but reporters were able to piece it together. And also, side note, the president of South Korea called this man personally and he didn't pick up. So let me walk you through that day that he really didn't want you to know about. He claimed he arrived at the scene at 10:17 p.m. and he took charge immediately in saving lives. But instead, what really happened was he was overseeing a rally, a protest that was happening near the president's office in Yongsan. That ended around 8:30 p.m. He went to a local restaurant nearby for dinner with other officers at 9:24 p.m. He received the first really bad reports about the crowd situation. So other subordinates at the police
You need to get that food in your tummy. Do you know what I mean? Before saving lives. What the fuck? Like, these type of people literally deserve they have a special place in hell. You know, if you believe in that type of stuff, special place in hell.
So other subordinates at the police station disregarded all the other prior phone calls. At 9:30, they were like, maybe we should tell the chief.
Wow.
So he gets to the restaurant at 9:24. At 9:30, he gets it. What do you think?
Maybe.
This is crazy.
He continues his dinner.
Like, it doesn't seem real. Like, how crazy this is.
For about 20 minutes. He goes to his car at 9:47 p.m. and he drives to the police station to respond to this. Now, this is what's insane. From that Seolleongtang restaurant to the police station would take him 10 minutes to walk. He chose to sit in traffic for an hour because he wanted to drive. He got to the police station at 10:55 p.m. It took him an hour to go half a mile. It could have been a 10-minute walk.
Oh, I don't know how parents didn't haunt this. Look at him. How these parents didn't fucking haunt him down and just like murder him.
That motherfucker looking like he's just having a
chilling
walk at
he's
night.
like, oh, let me take a chill
hands behind the back,
before sleep.
thinking about life. Motherfucker should have been like running, fucking do something like.
But but that's not him walking there. That's like him going, I don't know where. But
well, still, he's like nothing's going on. Like there's no panic happening. It's just
half a mile.
Walk. And then he's seen on CCTV walking from his car to the police station. And if you see him walking, he has his hands
from car to the police
he has
station.
His hands
Look
behind
how
his back,
chill,
like he's
brother.
chilling. Like he's just having a walk after eating. He's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Reports, okay.
As if he's leisurely strolling around.
That's what I'm saying.
Is he now behind bars?
He is now.
Oh,
bingo.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, that's his urgency level.
Fuck
he
that
gets
guy.
to the police station, goes to the room to check out the situation. Later, he tried to lie to Parliament and said that he requested additional safety task forces for Halloween, but he was rejected twice. He said he requested, they kept saying no, so he had to make do with the amount of officers.
So that's why you were chilling at a restaurant when you knew there needs to be people out there. Like you would, if you had like any morals or anything, you'd say, fuck you, I'd rather lose my job than lose thousands of people, hundreds of people's lives.
If he was properly cared about the people, he would have done that.
Like, do they not have brains? Okay, if you're so concerned about your image, you say to them, fuck you, I'm not gonna listen to you. And then in the back of your head, you can think, okay, well, people are gonna see that I fucking put my career in line and then I'm gonna look good on the news. If you want to think like that selfishly, do you know what I mean? Yeah. You would have looked good. But now you say you tried to do something and now you're behind bars because...
Same as that ship thing, that happened.
Yeah.
They would, I think, look better as a, what's it called? Government. They would look better as a government if they got someone to help in an urgent time where people are going to die.
Yeah.
Then say, no, that makes them look worse.
Aside, the fuck?
If they got the Navy ship that was close, right?
Yeah.
They would have looked good and people would have been like appreciative of it. They wouldn't look at them as like, oh my god, they need other people's help. This is so bad.
No.
They would have saved 316 whatever people was
kids.
Like they could have saved their life. But
kids.
No. Ego, fuck yous. We're gonna do this ourselves. No.
Yeah.
That's why ego is not a good thing to have. Like
it takes over and it's fucking.
You need ego in specific things, right? That like not about
for a good cause,
stuff, like
standing on your ground and being positive that, like that whatever you think is good.
And in combat sport, you need a bit of an ego going in, thinking you're gonna win all the time and stuff. That stuff is required. Otherwise, you can't be thinking, I'm gonna lose. This guy is so strong, he's gonna beat me.
Yeah.
That you need a little bit of an ego, but you also need to be humble.
Yeah, but unfortunately, people that want just power, they will get.
Oh,
they will do anything to go up there.
That's why I will never get into that politics stuff because.
Yeah.
That's just I feel like they're so egotistic on those.
No, they just want power. It's like they just want the true power, and then that power to better their lives financially or whatever.
I'm pissed off at them now. It's pretty bad.
Bro, I know.
Like watching this, I'm actually angry. I'm like thinking, damn, like why? Why?
So I wouldn't go kill I wouldn't go and fuck up my government for no reason. No, obviously not. But
no, but like that's just like what?
Yeah.
Anyway, let her talk.
Yeah.
No, so he had to make do with the amount of officers that he had. This was a complete lie. He never requested extra security forces. Actually, a police officer for the Yongsan Police Department reported that he told superiors that they need to look into crowd safety and deploy officers for Halloween weekend. But his superiors told him, and I quote, focus on the large-scale rally near the president's office.
Protect the one person.
And just to expand on that, at the time, 1,100 police officers were near the presidential office.
1,100, bro. 1,100 people.
4,700
officers.
highly trained crowd control officers were near the president's office.
Wouldn't that be like... what? Like,
for
what
that
are they?
alley, you need at least 4. At least 2 on each side.
They were beside the president. That's how much was beside the president's house.
Jesus.
There was probably not even that much people around. Brother.
Not a hope. I don't think.
What the fuck do they think? That he's like the most fucking influential person in the whole world, that there's gonna be like helicopters and like army coming there and like attacking him or something? This is what I mean. They don't want any inconvenience for themselves. They're like, I don't want to know about anything. I don't want to hear about anything rallies. I don't give a fuck. Everything just for me, 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 me. It's like, I'd rather have everybody protecting me than fucking people that are dying. There's not a shot that none of them knew what was going on. Not a fucking shot. Selfish motherfuckers. All of them need to be in prison. Like, I don't believe in like, you know, electric chairs and stuff. Electric chair. All of them. No, I'm not even joking. But I swear to God. And then see how their families feel. Motherfuckers.
Patrol officers were near the president's office. They were tasked by the administration to monitor anti-government protesters. None of them were sent to Itaewon. So it left only 137 officers.
Now you're going to have more protesters.
137 of them. That's literally nothing. No officers, out of the 137, no officer was in charge of maintaining security and safety. Like, there was no game plan. There was no thought out strategy. These 137 officers didn't even seem to be working in unison to make sure everyone stayed safe. In fact, these officers were told their main focus for the night should be on cracking down on drug usage in Itaewon. Police Chief Lee Jae was arrested December 23rd of 2022, so not too long ago. He's still being investigated. 2 other officers were immediately arrested because allegedly they told their subordinates to destroy internal reports about the phone calls that were being made to warn the police about the crowds. And as of January 13th of this year, there have been 23 people that were indicted. Half of them are officers. Most of them are accused of contributing to the death toll through negligence or even trying to destroy official documents that might include criminal evidence. Out of that group, the highest ranking official so far is the chief of the Seoul Metropolitan Police. So Lee-jae is just the Yongsan, the province, but the actual Seoul police chief was arrested as well.
Okay.
There's still a lot of questions, though, like, why wasn't the subway blocked? That's a huge point of contention. So normally the Korean government will block the subway stations, and typically it's done through the police. The police will tell the metro department to skip a station during big events. So Itaewon was becoming overly crowded, so the first thing that they should do is make sure nobody stops at Itaewon anymore. It just bypasses Itaewon, right?
Even if they just did that?
The next step.
Just that?
But the subway station wasn't blocked, which we know is super important because of the location of the Itaewon station with the alleyway and how the tragedy unfolded. So why wasn't it closed? There are 2 sides to this, the police's side and the transportation side. Completely different government departments. The police said, oh yeah, we asked the Itaewon station to stop. Like, we asked for this station to be skipped.
At this point,
to help
you
disperse
can't
the
believe
crowd
they asked them or not, because
we
fucking
even
hell.
asked if the
They
subways
didn't.
could give
Duh.
people free tickets.
Like, as I'm questioning, so like, you know the way she said that they said they had meetings and stuff about blah blah blah. What kind of meetings? If when they said the police people were out that were like not together, had no clue to what to do, or well, what kind of meetings did they have? Like, about what?
Yeah.
It's like almost like really feels like intentional. Like, obviously, I'm sure they weren't like, oh yeah, we want people to die, but it's like the negligence. It's like makes it seem like intentional. Like, there's no way that you didn't think something bad is gonna happen. Like, not a surge, you know, you wouldn't think a surge would happen, but like something bad, like something bad. Like,
but
okay,
even overcrowding is bad already. Like, you know, that's like already a thing that should never. Really
somebody
happen.
pushes somebody, fight. At least that would happen.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Like, even like light like that, but like for this to happen, just so.
Asked if the subways could give people free tickets out of Itaewon. So really help them out, right? So we could control the crowds better. But our requests were denied twice. The Metro department came out and is like, no, that's not how it happened. That's not true at all. The police were only asking us, how do we make requests for free stops for people? Like free exits for people? It was like a nonchalant question, so we answered it with our usual response of like, this is the official format on how to do it. They weren't even telling them like, this is an emergency.
So they didn't tell them to do it. They just asked, how would you do it?
Control it on their own.
How would that happen?
Even if passengers were like, you need to like skip this stop, they can't do it because it takes a lot of civilian guidance and movement. So the police need to be at the station guiding people
Like
on what.
even that, them calling and just like asking how would the procedure go and not saying to do that is almost like they did it for like a tick. See, we called them.
Yeah,
we
that's
called
what I
them.
was
Do
gonna
you know what I
say,
mean?
like-
Maybe they didn't expect that the train whatever station people being like, the fuck not, it did not happen like
It's
that.
I don't want them to stop, but I'll just ask them, and then
Just
we
in
can
case
say
we did, yeah.
that we called them, you know. But
Even that, like, I don't know if that happened, but that just feels like it.
To do. So the police need
I mean,
to
the way
get
she
this
says
stop.
it, yeah.
They can't do it because it takes a lot of civilian guidance and movement. So the police need to be at the station
Yeah.
guiding people on what to do. Like the train can't just be like, anyway, we're deciding to skip, because then it's going to cause like a surge
Havoc,
somewhere else.
yeah.
Like, it's a whole thing. Side
Yeah.
note.
'Cause people are gonna
another
go there
arrest
expecting
was
to go
made.
to this place and they
The chief of
can't.
the fire department was investigated. His name is Cha Sung-bom. The police stated, okay, they stated that the chief of the fire department, Choi, did not respond properly to the scene,
No way.
which is rich coming from them. But I guess there was
Yeah.
maybe some valid criticism. So the
Rich,
first
rich.
ambulance at the scene was actually sent from a different province. So they're like, explain yourself. That's what the police are saying. But nobody liked this take. Like, not the netizens, like really nobody. So Fire Chief Choi was there at the site. He was the control tower. He was guiding police officers, the firefighters. He was managing the chaos to the best of his ability. And I'm sure there is a lot of critique out there about maybe it wasn't the best managed, but he did seem to try.
Yeah.
The police claimed that the incident was further escalated because the fire chief's poor management of the disaster. It just really seems like they're trying to point fingers.
What? What he
Even
on his own could
prosecutors,
do?
Basically, the DAs were like, no, like, let the fire chief go. And the firefighters came together to support him. They did not believe that this was the right decision. It felt like the government was using their chief as a scapegoat.
Mm-hmm.
Even most netizens and Korean citizens did not agree with this, because I do think that there is always a level of distrust with police. But with the firefighters, they were truly acting as first responders. It wasn't even in their plans. Like, they weren't necessarily the most responsible for making sure that the crowd surge didn't even happen in the first place. That falls on the police.
Yeah.
So they came in afterwards to help. A lot of firefighters spoke up and said, we gave our everything at the scene. And it wasn't enough, but we gave it all. They said that they watched through the body cam footage to learn and to see what they could do better. And one firefighter said, one thing I noticed is that there wasn't a single moment where any of my colleagues, not a single moment where we were walking. And I think that's supposed to call upon the chief of the police for his nonchalant attitude while the tragedy was taking place. And that's where we are. Like, it's crazy that there's no end right now. Like, there's no, okay, guys, and maybe we can all sleep better at night because this is what's being done. Like, that's just where we are.
It's so much more impactful to hear these personal stories, because it just sounds like a crazy story, but to hear
Makes it real.
individually every person how this is impacting them is, I don't know, it just brings so much realness into this.
And I know a lot of people were focusing on the people partying and screaming on the beach and stuff, but just hearing how all these regular civilians, the way that they were trying to save each other, like,
Yeah, like even having a problem with people dancing, that's like one issue that really is not like actual problem. Like, it's immoral. It's like fucked up, a psychopath move like type of thing. But it's like, it's not their fault. Like, the thing was already done. Like, and nobody helped them prior to it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you can be angry at them and be like, what the fuck are you at? Like, stop it. But like, it already happened. And they didn't contribute into them people dying. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
So obviously they're wrong for it. But let's stop pointing fingers where they shouldn't be. Do you know what I mean?
the way that they were
The
trying
police
to
done
save
enough.
each other.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that we should try to remember is the news cycle moves so fast.
Yeah.
And I just hope that the parents, the families, like, they get the answers that they deserve. One quote from the parents really stands out to me, which is, please serve our kids justice on their way to heaven. And there's a sign that was put up outside. This is a sign that was put up around Seoul everywhere. And it says, please don't forget about us. About Itaewon. That is it for today's main episode. This wasn't even supposed to be like a video episode, but I just really wanted you guys to see and hear from the families of the victims. But please stay safe, and I will see you guys on Sunday for the mini-sode. Bye.
It's very sad and unbelievable.
Yeah, I was not lying when I said I was like traumatized by this when I first watched it. Like the only reason I was able to hold myself and not like cry really is because I knew it was coming kind of already. Like the whole situation happened, but
It's just
yeah.
what's sad is like because you can really like, especially if you love family and stuff or have friends, you know that if you kind of put yourself, even just imagine about it, it's kind of like fuck, you know, like that's just crazy. Like that's why I was with crying stuff because I was about the parents losing and like, you know, just
The
all that
last
stuff.
calls, voice
yeah,
messages.
like, you know, when the kid said happy birthday to his mom, the actor, and she has that on the voice, like
the
to-
single
and it's like,
single dad.
you know, I was just thinking like that. Imagine that was like me or something, and I sent that to my mom, and it's just like I can't imagine like just like not being there anymore. You know,
Yeah.
I know like the whole situation just crazy, and the way the government didn't
Avoidable.
respond.
Mind you,
And,
avoidable
and
situation.
It was avoidable, and it's like this girl though, she did her team and all that very good.
Stephanie, yeah.
They did a very good job, like to describe it and actually make you feel how the parents could have been feeling, like to see them and crying and oh man. And now then that stands out for me, the one where he said he or someone was given CPR and then he looked to the right and seen someone just fixing their makeup.
Oh yeah, fixing themselves,
What?
fixing their face and filming.
What?
Yeah, that's quick.
And then the people filming the dead bodies because
Of
they
women's
had no
breasts.
fucking like what the hell is wrong?
The women can't even get a break when they're dying basically. Do you know what I mean? It's like it was mostly women that died in there because of their physical and their
Yeah,
short and everything and blah blah. And
But still,
men
like, that's
still.
so stupid. Like, who the hell even films that and just posted? Like, look at this. What the hell are they even putting as a caption? What I want to fucking know.
That's what I mean. Women can just exist and they will be violated for no reason.
No, there's just some fucked up people. That's all it is.
And always will be. So
yeah,
I don't know. I can't even say thanks for watching this, but you know what I mean. Yeah, if
it's
you
tough, and
it's
I'm
very
sorry. Yeah, like I know it's happened a long time, but that's crazy.
Yeah, it's very
sorry that
unfortunate.
the government's fucked.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't imagine the men stuff that all of them went through and still have that. I'm sure whoever's still alive from that and still has that in their head. I'm sure about it. Like
forever. Like even if I remember about that. Like I remember the effects of me
I
watching
remember
this
that.
for the first.
I remember that for sure.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
I mean, like,
brother. But it's good to know, like, you know, it's not good to know, but it's just like good to be aware of, like, you know, of these type of things. But anyways, thanks for watching this video. If you did, if you want my brother to know more, learn more about any, you know, stories from Rotten Mango or whatever.
They're really good, like explained. I mean, they're very good.
She's very good. She's very, very good.
The details and the different kind of perspectives and stuff from different areas of it. Like, I got a lot of information there that was actually pretty
very in depth. Yeah.
In depth, yeah. But it's definitely a tough watch. Like I didn't expect to actually cry, you know. And in my head before coming here, I thought it was a horror thing.
Oh,
but
no.
It is a horror, but like
real life.
Sad.
It's real life horror.
Horrifically sad, basically.
It's real life horror, basically, for the people that went through it.
Like, you know, there could be a story where just like some killer doing some nasty stuff. You wouldn't cry, but
it's almost sometimes we like get desanitized when we hear about serial killers and stuff like that, because it's like doesn't almost seem real because you know you never went through it yourself, so you're like, oh, you just don't take it as serious. But this is like the videos, especially photos of the alleyway before after seeing how small it is, the perspective and everything. You're like
the pile was crazy.
It's like that could have been you. Like that could have been you.
Where they seen them pulling the people out. That was all.
It's way too fucking real.
Like they were just all like this. They couldn't move.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I don't know. Okay, bye. Sorry.
Bye.